who do you work for?
Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office.
How long have you worked there?
Almost 12 years.
And what is it that you do over there at the medical examiner's office?
I am a medical examiner. I'm charged with examining deceased individuals and certifying a cause and manner of death within the county.
And in terms of your education, where did you go to medical school?
The University of Maryland,
And what year did you graduate?
1995.
When did you begin working for the medical examiner's office again?
2001.
And drawing your attention back to June of 2008, did you have occasion to conduct a medical examination on the body of Travis Alexander?
Yes.
With regard to an examination of an individual such as this, what are the first steps that are taken?
The body is received under seal. It's in a sealed body bag with a number that's unique to that case. That seal is broken in my presence. The bag is opened, and then we examine the outside of the body, collecting evidence, performing photographs, and then we move on to an external examination, documenting injuries, and then an internal examination or an autopsy.
In this particular case, were there any x-rays taken?
Yes.
And what is the purpose of the x-rays?
Mostly to document internal trauma and or projectiles that we may need to recover.
I'm going to show you some photographs. Take a look at exhibits 170 through 173. You recognize those?
I do.
And are these photographs that were taken as part of your medical examination of Travis Alexander?
Yes.
And specifically, do they include the identification photograph as well as the x-rays?
Yes.
I move for the admission of exhibits 170 through 173.
Any objection?
Judge, I would object to number 170.
Council approach. Exhibits 170 through 173 are admitted.
Let's take a look at exhibit 170. And what is this number that's here on the left here?
083532. That's our case number for the year.
Is that the same as the number that came in the bag or in the sealed bag, or is that a different number?
There's an individual seal number on the bag, but the case number is separate from that.
And this is the face identifying the individual that was brought in, correct?
Yes.
The radiographs or the x-rays that were done in this particular case, were they done before you conducted your exterior examination or afterwards?
Before.
Let's take a look then at exhibit number 171. And what are we looking at here?
We're looking at a frontal x-ray of the head, and on the left side, on the right side of the x-ray, you can see a projectile.
When you said the left side, that would be the left side of Mr. Alexander, correct?
His left, our right, as we look at the x-ray.
Exhibit number 172. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at a side view of the head, again showing the projectile.
And this is where the projectile ended up, correct?
Yes.
And it is on the left side, even though this is the right aspect.
Yes, it's his left cheek area.
In looking at 173, this is a radiograph or an x-ray of the top or the top portion or the chest portion. Why was this taken, or does the medical examiner's office just take a full view x-ray of everybody that comes in?
We usually do a full series of, especially in homicides, we'll do a full series of x-rays to look for any sort of hidden projectiles or any sort of, especially in a stabbing case, we'll look for the tip of a knife or something like that, something that could harm us as we're doing the examination.
And is there anything that is shown in this x-ray as it applies to the stabbing or the shooting?
No, there's no metal fragments visible.
As part of your examination, the external examination, did you take a look at the hands?
Yes.
Take a look at exhibits 174 through 183 and see if that depicts photographs of Mr. Alexander's hands.
Yes.
I move for the admission of exhibits 174 through 183.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibits 174 through 183 are admitted.
Let's take a look at exhibit 174. What are we looking at here?
The back of the right hand.
Sir, one of the things that we know in this case is that the body was in its home for a while, or days before it was actually discovered. So was there any decomposition that was associated with the body, and are we looking at any in this particular photograph, or was it other parts of the body?
Yes, there was a state of what we would call intermediate decomposition, or the middle stage of decomposition, and it involved the whole body. And in this picture in particular, we can see green discoloration of the hand and also early what we call mummification of the fingertips.
And if you take a look over here on the thumb, why is that dark? Or I guess in the rest of the hand?
It's dried.
And is that part of the mummification process that you described for me?
Yes.
Are there any injuries to the upper portion of Mr. Alexander's right hand?
No.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 175. Now the fingers are extended, and we do see that there is some darkness on each of those fingers. Do you see it? Fingernail areas. Do you see that?
Yes.
What causes that?
Again, that's decompositional change.
And are there any injuries on the top of the arm?
There is an injury to the thumb, which I don't think is really clearly visible in this photograph.
All right, let's then take a look at exhibit number 176, which shows us what? What are we looking at here?
This is the palm of the right hand, and I think there may be another picture that shows this better, but there is an incised or a cutting injury of the tip of the right thumb.
And exhibit 177, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
In looking at injuries, are you able to tell whether they were made before death, after death, or at the time of death as part of the examination?
Sometimes. It depends on the case.
How about this one right here? Could you tell by looking at it and conducting an analysis whether or not this was done either before death, at the time of death, or after death?
I think it was done before death. There is hemorrhage associated with it.
When you say that there's hemorrhage associated with it, explain that a little bit more to me. What is it that causes a person to hemorrhage if they're alive, which is what I think you're telling me?
Well, if you have a heartbeat, you're going to have blood flow to an area that's injured, and so you'll have blood flow from an injury. So if the skin is cut or torn, there will be a great deal of blood that will come from that injury in a living person. A deceased person will ooze some blood, but not a great deal.
So in this one right here, it is your opinion that Mr. Alexander was alive when this was inflicted?
Yes, taking into consideration what I said and also in context with other injuries that are on the hands.
And what kind of injury is this one that we're looking at?
It's a sharp force injury. It's caused by a blade or a sharp forced object.
If an individual, let's get away a little bit from a knife right now and just focus on the individual maybe who is dragged or is hit, that kind of thing. If an individual is dead and somebody applies some force, hits them, are they going to bruise necessarily or not?
There may be something that would look like a bruise, but it will not be as large and the color will be different in a deceased person because there's no blood flow to the area. So you'll actually just breaking blood vessels in that area, and whatever blood happens to be there will ooze out, but there won't be blood pumped into the area.
And part of the reason I ask that is I see that there's sort of like on top of it a little bit of a darker area. Is that mummification or is that bruising?
It may be a combination of both. There's some darkening underneath the nail there, but in the context of the mummification, I can't really say for sure.
Are you familiar with the term defensive wounds?
Yes.
And define that for me, please.
They're based largely on location on the body. If you have injuries to the backs of the forearms or to the palms or backs of the hands, you can have gunshot wounds in those locations, or in the case of an assault with a knife or an edged weapon, you can have cuts or incised injuries to the backs or the palms or the backs of the forearm, and it's consistent with someone trying to either grab the knife or fend off wounds or fend off injury.
And the way you described it, by necessity, the person would have to be conscious and alive, correct?
Yes.
And is this that we're looking at, the right thumb, is that a defensive wound?
Could be, yes, consistent with that.
Let's take a look now at exhibit number 178. What do we see here?
It's the back of the left hand.
And again, with the back of the left hand, if you notice this little portion right here, what is that right there?
It appears to be what we would call a void in the blood. Maybe there's an area of pooling the hand was resting in, and the blood is not staining that area.
Okay. But that's not an injury, correct?
No.
Exhibit 179, what are we looking at there?
This is the back of the left hand.
Do we see any injuries here or not?
You can see the edge of an injury on the side below the thumb, the side of the hand, and then also on the back of the thumb. So there are two injuries that are partially visible here.
And those injuries, if we look at Exhibit 180, do those show those a little bit more?
Yes, this is the palm of the left hand, again showing from the side of the thumb near the wrist. There's a fairly deep wound that's going into the muscle there. There are two separate wounds of the palm below the index finger, and then I believe there's another injury on the thumb that we've already described.
In looking at these just to the naked eye, and obviously naked eye may not tell us everything, as we compare those to the injury to the right thumb, these seem to be a little bit deeper. Is that true or not?
Yes.
And how deep are these in comparison to the ones that we saw in the thumb?
The one on the thumb is fairly superficial. It just clips off part of the nail. This is actually going into the soft tissue and the muscle beneath the hand, so it's going in a depth of about 1/4 of an inch for all three injuries.
And if you look at this, are you able to tell us what type of blade is doing this other than that it's a knife blade?
All I can say is that it's a sharp-edged object.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 181. And this has a scale to it, correct?
Yes.
And so, for those of us that are really not versed in metrics, how big would you say this one is, the larger of the two?
That measurement in inches is 1 3/4 inch.
And this one right here, the one down there?
3/4 of an inch.
Taking a look at Exhibit 182, now we're looking at those first two injuries that we described, the one near the wrist and the one on the higher up on the thumb, correct?
Yes.
Were these also deep, this one that I'm pointing to near the wrist, was that deeper than the one on the right thumb?
Yes.
And if we look at 183, we have the scale there, correct?
Yes.
How big was that one?
That was measured in inches, 1 1/2 inch, and on the back of the thumb, 1 inch.
One of the things that we talked about with regard to the other injury to the right hand was whether or not they were consistent with defensive wounds. In this one, were these consistent with defensive wounds?
Yes.
And does that mean that Mr. Alexander was alive at the time that these injuries were inflicted?
I believe he was.
Would they have bled at the time?
Yes.
Let's take a look at exhibits 184 through 191. Are you familiar with those photographs?
Yes.
Do they depict the injuries to Mr. Alexander's front area from the head down to I guess it would be down to his toes, correct?
Yes.
I move for the admission of exhibits 184 through 191.
No objection.
184 through 191 are admitted.
Sir, while those are being marked, how tall was Mr., well, as part of the examination, is the body measured for height?
Yes.
How tall was Mr. Alexander?
69 inches.
That's 5'9", correct?
5'9", yes.
And how much did the body weigh at the time of the examination?
189 pounds.
The decomposition process, does that add weight, or does that take away weight, or does it just not affect it much?
Generally, you're not going to add weight. You'll take away weight. And also in a person who's been bleeding, that will also take away weight.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 184. And I'm interested in this area here on the right arm. Do you see that right there? This area here?
Yes.
That looks like it's some sort of veiny action going on, veins or something. Is that what that is, or is that something else?
We term that marbling, and it's a decompositional change. It's bacterial action in the small veins under the surface of the skin.
How about right here in the middle of his stomach?
That is what we call skin slippage. It's also decompositional.
One of the things that appears to be there, and that may not be so, but it appears that the body is a little bit bloated. Do you see that?
Yes.
Again, is that something that's associated with decomposition, or is that really how he was in life?
I do believe he does have a bit of bloating. He may have been a slightly heavy-set person in life, but there is some bloating, and that's from bacterial gas formation after death.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 185. On the shoulder there, do you see that?
Yes.
Is that an injury there?
Yes.
How big is that injury in terms of inches? I know we have the metric scale there, but how big is that? It's on the right shoulder.
Just looking at the photograph, you do have an English and a metric scale on the same side, so it's about, each of them, the largest of them is about an inch.
Is this a deep sort of cut, or is this sort of a grazing kind of cut?
Very superficial grazing injury.
But it would bleed, correct?
Yes.
And how about this one right here that we're looking at right there?
That is characterized as a stab wound, so it's actually a deeper wound, but it actually terminates at the breastbone, doesn't go into the chest cavity.
So as it was going in, it actually hit the breastbone and did not go any further, correct?
Right, yes.
Would this wound have been fatal, whether immediately or rapidly, or alternatively longer term?
Not in and of itself, no.
But it would bleed, correct?
Yes.
We then go to the one right here. First of all, how big is that one?
Just in looking at the scale, it's about 2.5 inches in length. It's transverse across the chest, or extending horizontally across the chest. And it's also, it's a deeply incised wound, so the blade is going below the skin, but it's not entering the chest cavity either.
You used the term incised that
Yes.
I don't think you used before. How do you define incised?
Oh, well, sharp force injuries are usually divided into stab wounds and incised wounds. So a stab wound is deeper than it is long on the surface of the skin, and the incised wound is just the opposite.
It's
So if you
longer
take
than it is deep.
Yes, if you take a razor and cut yourself on the skin, that's an incised wound. But if you stab yourself with a knife, then that's a deeper wound.
And this one right here, which is sort of below the chin and down here to the sort of the median, can you tell me a little bit about that in terms of whether or not this is a stab wound, whether or not this is an incised wound? Can you tell me about that?
It's a stab wound, and I do think we do have better views of it, but that one actually penetrates a major vessel coming into the heart.
Let me show you then Exhibit 186. Is that the better view of it?
Yes.
You said something about it going into the vessel of the heart. Why don't you explain to us a little bit about what the heart is and whether or not, when you said that it stabbed the vessel of the heart, whether it actually hit the heart, whether it hit the pericardium is what surrounds the heart, right?
The sac around the heart.
The sac.
Yes.
Whether it hit that, if you could just sort of explain that one to us.
Well, I do want to clarify first on the photograph that it's the lower of the two wounds there, so not the one next to the scale, but the
Right,
one
so it's
below
this
it
one that we're
is
talking
the one
about.
that goes into the vessel. What this actually does is it goes through the cartilage between the ribs and the breastbone. There's some softer cartilage, especially in young people. And this knife has penetrated that cartilage and gone through the sac that surrounds the heart, which is the pericardial sac. And it has perforated or passed through the superior vena cava, which is a major vein that comes down from the upper body and the head and drains into the heart. And then from there, the heart beats and pushes the blood elsewhere in the body. But it's a major vessel.
With regard to that major vessel, and I was talking about the tissue that encases the heart, is that vein inside that tissue that encases the heart, or is it outside, on top of it? Where
It starts out outside and enters the sac and then enters the heart, which is fully within that sac.
And this knife wound, did it penetrate the sac and hit this vein or not?
Yes.
So what happens when when a knife goes in and causes this amount of damage or this type of damage?
Well, depending on the position of the body, you may have significant internal bleeding, or if the person is leaning forward, they may bleed outside of the body because there is a track leading from that vessel outside. But this is a major vessel. It's not going to bleed as fast as an artery, but it will bleed a considerable amount.
With regard to this considerable amount of bleeding that's going on, is this a wound that could kill this person?
Yes.
And do you have an estimate, or is there any science out there that tells you, well, this type of wound, given what I know about it, would take X amount of time?
No, it depends on so many factors. It depends on the person's health. It depends on care that they receive. It depends on their blood volume to begin with and the position of their body.
Also, with regard to a situation like that, what if we have a person who's asleep, relaxed, versus an individual who's animating, jumping up and running around? Does that affect the amount of blood that is being lost and how quickly the blood is being lost?
Yes, a person in action is going to have a rapidly beating heart, and they will lose blood more quickly.
And other than the blood coming out through here, we know that these others have bled also, correct?
Yes.
This one above and this one. Would any of these injuries, and for the example, this one, would what we associate with television, would blood come out of the mouth, the ears, or just out of the chest area?
It depends on what's hit inside the body. If the lung was nicked, which is possible in this case because we're dealing with a decomposed body, so the organs aren't as pristine, they're not as they don't lend themselves to examination as in a fresh individual. But if the lung is nicked, they can cough up blood. If you have blood going into the throat area, and he does have throat injuries as well, which we'll talk about, all of those can cause coughing up of blood or loss of blood out of the mouth and the nose.
There is death, and then there's also unconsciousness, correct? Those are two different things, right?
Yes.
With regard to this particular wound that's here at the bottom, is that something that would, once it's inflicted, would that cause Mr. Alexander to lapse into unconsciousness?
Eventually, yes, not immediately.
When you say eventually, do you have an estimate, maybe minute, seconds, between the time of infliction and the time that he would lapse into unconsciousness?
If that were the only wound, and it's not, probably a few minutes, because we're dealing with a vein and not an artery, so it's a lower pressure system, so blood loss is slower.
And how about if you take a look at that injury in connection with the things that we've seen with regard to his hands, the defensive wounds that we've talked about? Does that tell you, or at least in terms of time, does that indicate whether or not there was at least enough time for Mr. Alexander to attempt to defend himself and then get these other wounds to the hand.
With this wound to the heart, he should have been able to get his hands up and attempt to defend himself.
If he was in a seated position when this wound was inflicted, would he have the ability, even though this was inflicted, to get up and walk somewhere or move quickly somewhere, as a matter of fact?
Yes.
Exhibit number 187 shows us the injury to the right shoulder. Do you see that?
Yes.
Looks more like a scratch, doesn't it?
It's very superficial, yes.
Do any of these injuries, including the one to Exhibit 186, do any of these speak to movement or anything like that, or is just that's not something that these photographs show?
Since they're on multiple parts of the body, they imply a motion of the assailant or a motion of the decedent, and I can't say which of those is the case.
Exhibit 184, we do have the lower portion of his body, correct?
The lower part of the abdomen.
Right. And we have this injury here, right? And then we
Yes.
have these, right?
Yes.
If we go to Exhibit 188, is that a close-up of them?
Yes.
What are these down here to the, as we look at it, to the lower part of his belly button?
There's another photograph which may not be entered into evidence, but there's a wound track that extends across the front of the belly from where this stab enters. So some of that, what you're seeing is blood actually appearing on the surface of the skin because of this track where the stab wound went is very close to the surface of the skin.
So what I think you're saying with regard to this stab wound is that it went something like that.
Yes.
And so if we do that from the opening to the longest one, how far is that?
I gave a maximum wound track depth of about 5 3/4 inches.
If Dr. Horn is referring to his report, can we have that marked, please?
Do you want to mark yours or do you want to mark another one?
It's the same report, so.
I think we have one marked.
And I guess from now on, if you want to refer to your report, you can find looking at Exhibit 277, and if you want to look at yours, let me know.
Apologies.
We were talking about the length of this one, and this one is, I think it says 5 3/4.
Yes.
What is the angle of that?
It's across the body from left to right and slightly downwards.
So it's sort of came sort of from the side right here,
Yes.
correct? And was he alive at the time that this happened, or was he deceased at that time?
More likely than not alive, since there is bleeding associated with the wound.
And you're talking about this down here, the bruising that's down here, correct?
Yes.
Is this area in the belly button, is that also associated with the stab wound?
Yes, it's going across the navel.
Exhibit 189, we're now looking at the lower portion of his body, right?
Yes.
And not to be indelicate, was there any decomposition in the testicular area, that sort of part of his body?
Yeah, it's usual to see some drying there and some early mummification, and that is
Right.
present, yes.
And let's start with the right leg. What are we looking at there?
Apart from some decomposition changes, he also has some contusions or bruises on the shin area.
Right here? Is that correct?
On the right shin, yes.
Let's take a look at 191. Does that show it better?
Yes.
And the question is the same. Were these injuries here, were these inflicted at the time of death, before death, after death? Can you tell?
I believe they were inflicted before death.
Would these be consistent with this individual being dragged somewhere while he was alive?
Or,
Sustained.
You're familiar, you've done how many autopsies, sir?
about 6,000.
And during that time, have you seen and studied the situation where someone is dragged before death? Have you seen that situation before?
Yes.
How many times would you say?
At least 3 or 4 times.
And looking at that along with and have you read up on this area? Is there any?
Recently, no.
Given what you know and what you've seen in your work, and you said that these injuries are before death, could that be consistent with someone being dragged?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Right?
Usually what you see in a dragging is you'll see more drawn out abrasions. These look more like impacts to me against something. Bruising is usually from stumbling against something or being forced against something.
So, in other words, these are consistent, more consistent in your view with him hitting something before death.
Yes, or something hitting him.
How about if we then go to Exhibit 190, and this is the right heel or left heel?
That is the left heel.
And what do we have here in the back of the left heel?
I call them abraded lacerations. So a laceration as opposed to an incised wound is actually a tearing of the skin rather than cutting, and it's abraded. So there's an abrasion or a scrape leading into the laceration, and that is also from a contact with an object of some kind.
And again, were these made before or after his death?
I believe before, because they are hemorrhagic.
And you said hemorrhagic, that means they were bleeding, right?
Bleeding into them, yes.
But these do imply some sort of action, correct? I mean, there was movement.
A force, yes, a blunt force.
To go back to this exhibit, which is 191, and looking at the left foot, do you see this right here? That area there by the heel?
Yes,
What is that?
that is a contusion or a bruise.
So that's also this. How is that different than the abrasion that we've talked about?
A contusion or a bruise is just bleeding under the skin. The skin is intact, whereas an abrasion or a laceration, the skin is scraped or torn.
And if we look at the knee here, is that a contusion or an abrasion?
I would characterize that as an abrasion, and in contrast, the other things we've been talking about, I'd say that looks more like a post-mortem change. It's got some drying and it's kind of a yellowish in color, so it really doesn't look like an ante-mortem or an injury before death.
So this could be something after death?
Yes.
And if an individual, I know it begs the question, but if an individual is dead, they're not going to be moving around to cause this, right?
No.
Are you then telling me that actually a force was applied to this area as opposed to Mr. Alexander either moving or striking himself?
That's more likely, yes.
Let's take a look at exhibits numbers 192 through 199. Are those photographs of the victim's injuries in the back area of his body when you conducted the examination in June of 2008?
Yes, and also some images of the head as well.
The back part of the head, correct?
Yes.
Move for the admission of exhibits 192 through 199.
No objection, Judge.
Exhibits 192 through 199 are admitted.
Let's take a look at exhibit 192. And the injuries that jump out at us are these right here. Are you familiar with the term grouping?
Yes.
Is this a grouping of injuries?
Yes.
And what does that mean to you?
Well, more likely than not, they occurred close in time, and a lot of them, most of them, have the same orientation.
When you say that they have the same orientation, what does that mean? And I'll show you exhibit number 193. What do we mean about the same orientation?
In general, except for one exception that I can see at the lower edge, they're all oriented exactly the same direction.
And what direction is that?
They're in a diagonal extending from the right shoulder towards the lower left side of the back.
So if these were inflicted like this,
Yes.
and with one exception, which exception is that?
The lower, there's a pair of wounds. It appears that there's one that's sort of going the other direction, the other diagonal.
And these injuries that we're talking about that are coming this way like that, could they be consistent with the individual having his back, as I have it to you, turned to his attacker and the attacker just stabbing him like that?
Yes.
How many are there here? Starting with this one here, cutting across to the other shoulder, sort of in a triangular fashion, if you will. How many how many injuries do we have there?
We have 9 injuries, and they're all clustered together there in the center. What you're seeing on the upper left side is actually post-mortem artifact. There's some skin slippage there and some drying.
Is that what we're talking about there?
Yes.
Or in this
all
one?
of this area here where your pen is.
And also right here, I believe.
Yes.
Correct. And you said that there were how many? 9?
9.
Are these stab wounds or are they incised wounds? Which is the
They're
term?
stab wounds.
So which means that they're deeper than they are longer, correct?
Yes.
How deep is the deepest one there?
They're all about the same depth. They're about 1 inch deep, and they're going into the back parts of the ribs and the spine, the spinal bone, and stopping there. And none of them, to my exam, none of them entered the chest cavity, although with decomposition you can't completely rule that out.
When you say that they went up to these bones, does it mean that they stopped there, or did the knife blade continue past the bone? Do we know that, or does decomposition affect that?
They appear to all have been stopped by the bones.
And that does speak a little bit to the pressure that's being applied to them, right? That they didn't go through the bone, right?
It depends on the force of the assailant and also the type of weapon that's used.
And if you know, maybe you do, maybe you don't, do you know approximately how much force there was that was applied there or not?
I couldn't say. It would depend on the thickness of his bones as well, so there are a lot of variables.
But needless, they didn't go through the bone, right?
Correct.
This area here, which is his buttock area, correct?
Yes.
What's going on there? It just looks like it's a little bit red. Could you tell us what's going on there?
That's lividity. So this person was found in a semi-seated position, and the blood had settled to that part. So when the heart stops beating, the blood will settle to wherever gravity will guide it. And so in this case, since he's in a semi-seated position, most of the blood is going to go to the buttock area, and that's why it's kind of got this reddish color.
Is part of the decomposition process, does that include gases being inside the body, being formed and then expelled? Is that part of the decomposition process?
Yes.
So for example, if in this case, if we had, which we do, a wound here to the neck, would it be consistent with the decomposition process to have the gases sort of be expelled through that area such that liquid or fluid maybe come out with the gases? Is that something that could happen?
Yes, that's usual.
Let's take a look at 194, and I want to look at the right foot. Do you see that right there? That area there, and perhaps this area here. Are those bruises, or is that just maybe blood or discoloration?
It's discoloration and also mummification of the sole of the foot, extending up onto the side of the foot.
And the left foot, you see that right there? I'm going to move it up. The knee area, you see that? And is that the one that we talked about that was probably post-mortem, or is that a different?
That was on the other side, but again, that has the same sort of appearance. It's not the best view, but it looks like it dried, almost like a parchment-like appearance, and that's something that we see with after death.
And the left foot has the abrasion, I think you called it.
Yeah, there's a contusion on the
Okay.
ankle area, and then also that abraded area of laceration on the Achilles tendon.
Let's look at Exhibit 193 again, and we've talked about this grouping. And we see the head and the neck. Let's take a closer look at that. And Exhibit 195. What are we looking at there?
This is, after I've inspected the back of the head, I've shaved some of the hair away to better show the injuries. And what you have here are deep incised wounds, so they're longer than they are deep. But they are very deep. They're going all the way to the skull. And there's 2 of them on the back of the scalp.
Given the way you described it, and it may have been something that I was reading into it, but it appears that the way you described it, there was some force that was applied to these particular wounds to get to where they got.
Well, if you have a very sharp blade, it actually wouldn't take very much force at all to cut the tissue very deeply. All it is just connective tissue that forms the scalp. Now, to go through the bone, that would be a lot more force that would be needed.
And this one right here, how long is that one?
I have it as 2 inches on the autopsy report.
And the one above it?
2 inches as well.
The fact that the hair is there, does that affect the strength needed to get into or get this sort of injury, or is that just something that the hair really is not something that you deal with or think about?
His hair is very short. I mean, if he had longer, bushier hair, it might cushion the head somewhat or protect the head. But in this case, he's got short hair, so I don't think it played a role.
Taking a look at Exhibit 198, what are we looking at there?
What you actually see here are the edges, and it's only in one portion of those incised ones we saw. There was some force applied that was sufficient to cause a divot in the skull bone. So this is actually after the scalp has been reflected away from the skull. And what you're seeing here is actually a divot in the center of the skull, and then over on the left side you see another one, and there's hemorrhage around those. So the bone was actually sort of chipped away by the end of the implement there.
If we take a look at Exhibit 199, what are we looking at there?
This to me is the tip of an implement, probably the tip of a knife or something similar, because it has this very triangular profile. This is the bone, and the piece of bone has actually been chipped away by the end of the object.
If we go back to Exhibit number 195, what this divot in Exhibit 199, where was it as it applies to these two?
Right. There's one at the extreme left end of the longer wound at the bottom,
Right here?
and then one towards the middle of the top wound.
Right here?
Yes.
So we're looking at there, and we're looking at there. When we look at Exhibit number 198, you're looking at here and here.
Yes.
Exhibit 196, the focus on the area that's down here to the bottom. And also to the front, if you will, of the head. Take a look at Exhibit 197. In terms of these 2 injuries that we saw back there, where is this one now?
This one's actually towards the front of the head, so you're looking at the top of the head near the hairline on the forehead. At the very bottom, you'll see Mr. Alexander's eyebrow, his left eyebrow. So this is a small incised wound at the forehead near the hairline.
Any of these wounds that we've been talking about, the ones with the sharp instrument, are they any of those after death, or are they all pre-death?
I think they're all pre-death. They all have bleeding associated with them.
Let's take a look at Exhibits 200 and 201. What are we looking at there?
The right side of Mr. Alexander's neck behind the ear.
And these are also were taken at the time of your examination.
Yes.
Move for the admission of Exhibits 200 and 201.
No objection.
200 and 201 are admitted.
Of all of these injuries that we've taken a look at so far, how many of those have been the type that would have been fatal? Of all the ones that we've looked at so far, the head, the back, and then the one to the front.
Taken together, all the wounds of the back and the head could have been fatal from bleeding over time. The most significant wounds are going to be the neck wound, which we haven't talked about yet, the stab wound that penetrates the heart, the vein leading into the heart, and then also the gunshot wound, which we also haven't discussed.
Right, let's take a look at Exhibit 200. And what are we looking at here?
This is another stab wound of the back part of the skull behind the ear, so there's bone underneath there. It goes down into that bony area and also goes into the muscle, the strap muscle that is on the side of the head below the ear.
And we're looking at 201. How big is that one?
1 1/4 inch.
Exhibit number 202. What are we looking at there?
That is the back opposite side of the neck, on the left side of the neck, and that's another stab wound.
I move for the admission of Exhibit 202.
No objection.
202 is admitted.
What do we see here?
That's another stab wound to the back left side of the neck, and that also penetrates into muscle on the back of the neck.
And how long is that one?
1 inch.
Take a look at exhibits 203 through 206. And what do they portray?
The largest wound of the neck across the throat.
Move for the admission of exhibits 203 through 206.
No objection.
Exhibits 203 through 206 are admitted.
Sir, when we're looking at these kinds of wounds like the ones in the neck, are you able to tell, for example, if it started on the left side or the right side? Do you know by looking at these where the wound may have started or not?
I'm not able to say.
Let's take a look at 203. Okay, what are we looking at? I guess we'll do it this way. What are we looking at here?
This is a side view of the neck wound, and it's probably one of the better views to show how deep it goes.
And how deep is this wound? What is it that was cut as this knife came through the...
Again, referring to my autopsy report, it passes through the airway, so the windpipe is cut through.
Let me stop you there. When it passes through the airway, does this individual, as it's going through there, lose the ability to scream at that point or not?
It's below the larynx, below the voice box, so yes.
And if this person, well, this person's alive at this point, according to you, right? He was
Yes.
still alive at the time
Yes.
this was inflicted. Where would the blood start coming out as a result of this wound here?
Well, right next to the windpipe are the major vessels of the neck. So you've got the carotid artery, you've got the jugular vein, and on the right side, not the left, but on the right side.
Let's take a look at exhibit number 204. That's the right side, correct?
Yes. You're not going to be able to see it in this picture to any great advantage, but my examination did show that the jugular vein and the carotid artery on the right side were.
Looking at this, how deep is this wound that we have here?
It goes all the way back to the spine, so it's 3 inches, 4 inches.
And if a person were to have the spine cut off, is that where the feeling stops and they don't feel anything, or?
Yeah, it doesn't go through the spinal cord, so it doesn't penetrate that bone. So it's actually the soft tissue and structures of the front of the neck and then stops at the bone.
Exhibit 205, what are we looking at here?
And this is a frontal view of the same wound.
In looking at this, do you see how it's, my term, scalloped?
Yes, there's some irregularity, and a lot of that is due to the drying of the wound that's happened after death. If you inspect the edges of the wound, it is actually a cleanly incised wound, and it has retracted a bit and gotten a bit larger after death because the tissue has dried and retracted away.
Are you familiar with the term hesitation marks?
Yes.
Are there, and what are hesitation marks?
Very occasionally we'll get suicides like this. We'll get people that cut their own throat, and it's very unusual for them to just cut their throat. They will do shallow cuts, and they'll sort of do test cuts, and then they'll do a deep cut. So we call those little smaller cuts hesitation marks, and we don't see anything like that here.
Exhibit 206, what are you doing here?
I'm trying to show the profile of the wound a bit better, put the wound together so we have sort of an idea of what the wound looked like before it's separated.
And see this right here? Is that an indication of where it started, or you can't tell where it started?
I can't say whether it started on the right or the left, but it's across the neck.
Once this was inflicted, what kind of wound is this? We've talked about the one that's in the chest, and you said, well, that's not immediately fatal, and the person would be conscious. Once this was inflicted on Mr. Alexander, is this something that's, number one, rapidly fatal, and number two, what about lapsing into unconsciousness? If you could have talked to us about those two aspects.
Well, he has 2 major vessels in his throat that have been cut. He's going to lose a great deal of blood very quickly. He's going to lose consciousness within seconds, likely, and then die a few minutes later.
So if an individual receives this wound, would he be able to get up and walk, let's say, 12 feet 6 inches somewhere?
Yes,
He
he
could
could
do
get
that.
up and walk a couple of feet. That's possible. He could move, yes.
And then he would,
Collapse.
and in terms of unconsciousness, so how much time are we talking about?
A few seconds, probably.
And death, how long would it take for this person to die if this was the only injury?
If this was the only injury, again, probably a few minutes.
In this case, though, you've seen that there were other injuries, and you also alluded to the fact that there was a gunshot wound, right?
Yes.
Let's take a look at exhibits 207 through 210. And what do those deal with?
They show the gunshot wound of Mr. Alexander's right forehead.
And we also have the bullet. Did you recover it?
Yes.
Move for the admission of exhibits numbers 207 through 210.
Exhibits 207 through 210 are admitted.
Exhibit 207. What is this right here?
That's a gunshot entrance wound.
And what's the trajectory of this gunshot wound?
It passes down through the skull, passes through the face and downward and to the left, and terminates in the left cheek.
In looking at this, are you able to tell or give us a determination as to the distance between the muzzle and his temple?
I'm not. I called it an indeterminate range. I don't have sooting, I don't have stippling, any of the indicators of a range of fire here.
So we really can't tell how far away it was.
That's right.
And 208 just shows us that same injury with the ruler next to it, right?
Yes.
Exhibit 209, what do we see there?
That is the left cheek, and I've made an incision and removed the bullet here.
This bullet and the trajectory that you've described, did it affect the brain at all? In other words, did it strike the brain or not?
It must have. It passed through the front right portion of the skull. The problem in this case is that the brain was decomposed, and the brain is a very soft structure to begin with, so it falls apart very rapidly after death. So I was not able to see a track through the brain, but just because the bullet passes through the front part of the skull where the brain normally would be, I have to conclude that the brain was perforated.
And if the brain is perforated, what would happen to this individual once he was shot?
He'd be incapacitated.
Went down? what you're
Yes.
saying. Immediately?
Rapidly, yes.
Exhibit 210 is what?
That's the bullet after recovery.
Let me show you Exhibit 244. If you want, go ahead and open it. Need that, you know, I'll get you a bigger glove there, I'll get you some scissors.
Do I need to view it, or you prefer that I did?
Yeah, let me go ahead and get you some scissors.
This is the evidence canister, which would be containing that projectile that was recovered, and those are my initials.
All right, if you don't mind putting it back. I move for the admission of Exhibit 244.
No objection.
244 is admitted.
So how did Mr. Alexander die? What was the mechanism of death? In other words, how did he die?
Primarily blood loss.
And tell me how that works on the body in terms of the blood loss and what that does to the individual as he dies.
Well, after you lose blood, you lose the ability to provide oxygen to your major organs, including your brain and your heart. In this case, the first thing that would happen would be dizziness, followed by loss of consciousness, and then death.
In this particular case, you've indicated that there are three specific injuries that could have led to death. We talked about the stab wound in the chest, we've talked about the slitting of the throat, and then we've talked about the shot to the head. With regard to the shot to the head, would that have been rapidly fatal?
Likely would have been, yes.
And by rapidly fatal, what are we talking about?
Well, if you have a projectile going through the front part of the brain, the person may not die immediately, but they'll probably lose the ability to function normally. They'll lose consciousness, and they'll be laying on the floor.
Very short order. In other
Yes.
words, shot, they go down.
Yes.
How about the slashing to the throat in terms of whether or not it's rapidly fatal or not?
I think by far it's the most significant injury, and would have
And
been
why do you
most.
say that?
Well, it's just the most hemorrhagic injury. It's the one that I can demonstrate the most significant injury to the structures that are going to cause death, like the carotid artery, the windpipe, and the jugular vein.
And then the one to the heart, is that, I think we've talked about it, but in terms of rapidly fatal, less fatal, which of these, if we're going to apply that standard as to which are the most fatal, how about the one to the chest? Is that the most fatal or the least fatal? Which may not be the
Probably the middle. It's a significant injury. It would definitely cause death without medical attention.
And would that cause unconsciousness immediately?
Yes. Not immediately. Not the chest wound, no.
From what I'm hearing you say, of the three that we've talked about, two of them, the one to the neck and the one to the gunshot to the head, those appear, from what I hear you saying, that those would cause unconsciousness quickly,
Immediate,
immediately,
yes.
and the one to the chest would not.
Less likely.
So if that's the scenario, and in this case we have the defensive wounds to the hands, what does that tell you about the sequencing of these three injuries?
I believe the wounds to the hands must have occurred before the fatal injuries, either of the head or of the throat.
And so what you're saying is that at some point during the stabbing, but before the slashing of the throat and before the gunshot to the head, this individual grabbed the knife.
Or attempted to.
Or the knife was applied.
Objection, leading.
Rephrase.
Tell me about the sequencing of events as it applies to the two injuries, and one to the head and the slitting of the throat, and when this individual may have grabbed the knife or the knife was applied to his hands.
With the throat wound and the head wound, I don't think this person could have had a purposeful activity, meaning I don't think they could have raised their arms and attempted to defend themselves. With the chest wound, that's possible because he would not have been immediately unconscious.
In terms then between the other two, so that would mean then that it would appears that, in your opinion, the first wound would have been the one to the chest.
Objection, leading.
Rephrase.
Which one would have been first in your opinion?
Well, the stab wound could have occurred, and then the defensive injuries could have happened after the wound to the chest occurred.
Right, okay. And then in terms of the sequence of the injuries involving the three major ones that we talked about, what is your opinion?
Well, the throat injuries and/or the head wound are going to be immediately incapacitating, and he's not going to attempt to defend himself after that.
Okay, in terms of the shot to the head, do you have any opinion as to whether or not he was alive at the time that that shot was struck?
I can't say.
Do you have an opinion as to the wound to the neck, whether or not he was alive at the time that that was rendered, if you will?
I believe he was. There's a great deal of hemorrhage associated with that.
And was he alive with regard to the one to the chest that we've been talking about?
Yes, I believe he was.
Can you tell with regard to the gunshot wound to the right temple whether or not he was alive or not at that point?
Again, there's a wound going through the head, and I don't see hemorrhage in the brain. I can't see a wound track through the brain, so all I know is that there's a bullet going through the brain, so I can't say with certainty.
And if we don't see hemorrhaging or bleeding, as you talked about, is that an indication that the person was already dead?
They may have been, yes.
I don't have any other questions, thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Horn.
Good afternoon.
Okay. So you're obviously the doctor that performed the autopsy on Mr. Alexander, right?
Yes.
And were you the only doctor that did that?
Yes.
And present during the autopsy was Detective Flores, right?
I have, again, referring to my autopsy report, Detective Barrientos and Detective Flores were present.
And that's Detective Flores here sitting at the prosecution's table?
Yes.
Okay. And so, and when they're present, that means they are able to watch what you're doing?
Yes.
And if they had a question, they can always ask you?
Yes.
And if you had, they're there to collect evidence too, right?
Yes.
And if you had something or you noted something, you can certainly tell the detectives, right?
Yes.
And there was no issues. I mean, he was free to ask you questions if he had any.
Yes.
After the autopsy, he would have been free, the Detective Barrientos or Detective Flores would have been free to call you if they had follow-up questions, right?
Yes.
I mean, in other words, you don't just do this autopsy and then forget about it.
That's right.
Okay. And so, and you certainly would take Detective Flores' calls if he called you.
Yes, I would.
And in fact, at some point you did speak to Detective Flores later, didn't you?
I may have. I don't recall.
Okay. Well, he's considered what we call a case agent. Are you familiar with that term?
Yes.
And that means that he is like the point person for the investigation, right?
I believe so.
As far as the police agency, if you had needed to say anything, it would be Detective Flores or the case agent that you would say it to.
Right, or if I needed further information, I would contact that detective, yes.
Okay. And he was always open to you as far as you know, right?
As far as I know.
Okay. Now, during this autopsy, you learned that, I think you said that Mr. Alexander was 5 foot 9 inches?
Yes.
And at the time of the autopsy, the weight was 189.
Yes,
And if you need to refer to your report, just let me know.
thank you.
The 189 pounds, I believe that would be during the autopsy. So more likely in life, he weighed more than that. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you have any type of an opinion about how much more he would typically weigh?
I would go by his driver's license or recollections of family. I don't have that information.
Okay, but we do know that at the point of an autopsy, especially when somebody's lost blood, they're going to weigh less than what they did in life.
Yes.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the gunshot wound, okay?
Yes.
All right. Now, we looked at the pictures, and from the pictures, it looks as though the gunshot wound, the gunshot goes in, there's an entry. Well, you're familiar with an entry wound, what that means, right?
Yes.
And an exit wound?
Yes. There is no exit wound in this case.
Okay, and an exit wound is when a projectile is leaving the body.
Yes.
Okay, so there's an entry wound right above his right brow, is that right?
Yes.
And just in the middle of his brow? Just above it, actually?
It's above it, yes.
Okay, and you said there's no exit wound?
No exit wound.
So that means that during the autopsy, you recovered the projectile in his left cheek, right?
Yes.
Or correct, I should say. And it was in, we know that the trajectory, which is the pathway of the bullet, right? That's what
It's the direction.
The direction. So we know that the direction of the bullet, based on where it went in and where it lodged, we know that it was coming in from the left and going down.
Coming in from the right and going down and ending up on the left side.
I'm sorry, heading left.
Heading left, yes.
Okay, right. Coming in from the right-hand side, heading in the direction of left, and then lodging in the left cheek.
Yes.
Okay. And it was coming in a downward position, right?
It may have been deflected by the bone since it's passing through the skull, so its position in the cheek may not be the actual trajectory at the beginning of its path.
Okay. So, and you know, I would assume from being a doctor, I've always heard that head wounds bleed. The scalp is something that bleeds a lot. Is that true?
Yes, scalp wounds do bleed.
Okay, so a head wound, a bullet entry wound above in the scalp, just above, or not the scalp, but just above in the forehead, is that something that's going to have a lot of blood associated with it typically?
In a living person, yes.
Okay, and so if this bullet wound is made while Mr. Alexander's living, there's going to be blood coming out of it, right?
Yes.
And it would be, of course, in the pictures we just see a small little hole, but when it actually happened, if Mr. Alexander was living, there would have been quite a bit of blood coming from there.
Generally, yes. Depends on what other wounds have happened.
Okay.
So if the throat's already been cut and he's already been bleeding from that wound, there might be considerably less blood from that wound.
Okay. Assuming, though, that Mr. Alexander was alive at the time that the gunshot wound is done, so that the heart is still pumping, in that situation, you'd agree, right, that there would be lots of blood coming from the gunshot wound?
In that abstract sense, yes.
Okay. And then the left cheek, the projectile lodging in the left cheek, that's something that would typically cause bleeding, wouldn't it?
Wherever it is along its path, it's going to cause bleeding along the path. So yes, there would be bleeding into the cheek, there'd be bleeding into the forehead and into the skull intervening.
Okay. And in the cheek where you were able to recover the projectile, that would be something that, had Mr. Alexander been alive, the blood would be going from his cheek and probably into his mouth, wouldn't it?
I don't have any evidence that it passed through his mouth. So if it's actually going through, and when I say cheek, I do mean this bone up here, the maxilla, which is really not connected to the oral cavity except by the sinus. So I'm not saying that it went through his oral cavity.
Okay. So you're talking about it being lodged in the cheekbone?
Cheekbone or beyond the cheekbone, up here in the soft tissue above where the mouth is.
Okay. And you said that's connected to the mouth through the sinus?
Right. There's a
cavity?
maxillary sinus, right.
All
Yes.
right. So if there was bleeding associated with that, then would we expect to see blood into the sinus or through the nose and then eventually into the mouth?
It's likely, yes.
All right. And you talked about the pathway. Well, let me ask you this. You talked a little bit on direct about not knowing the distance from the muzzle of the gun to Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
So when you're talking about that, you're really talking about things like stippling, right?
Stippling or soot
Soot.
that deposits on the skin, right?
Okay. Can you tell us what stippling is?
Stippling is sometimes on the end of a firearm, if the person's close enough when they're being shot, you'll have little pieces of burning gunpowder that will come out of the end of the gun and will embed themselves in the skin. And so you'll get these little tiny dots, little stipple marks around the wound. And when we see that, we usually say that's an intermediate range of fire. And it depends on the type of firearm you're using, but it may be a couple of feet away or maybe up to a yard away, depending on what gun is used.
Okay, so when you see stippling, that tells you it's that the muzzle of the gun was probably within 2 to 3 feet away from the person?
Depending on the gun. So some can be considerably further away, some can be closer than that and leave stippling. So what you'd have to do is actually get the gun and test fire it.
Okay. Now, when you talk about stippling and it leaving marks, those are actual burn marks, aren't they?
There are abrasions, and there may be some burn to that, but most of the time it's an abrasion and it's a piece of gunpowder that's embedding itself in the skin.
Okay, and those abrasions, they're not just going to go away if somebody were to pour water over them, right?
No, they're embedded in the skin.
So we know that Mr. Alexander's body was found in the shower and that it appeared that there was water at some point put over his body. That's
Yes.
not going to get rid of any stippling, right?
It may wash out some of the gunpowder fragments, but the marks, the stipple marks, would still be there generally.
All right, and you're confident that you would be able to know that, right? From your experience?
Well, with decomposition, it may be less apparent, but in looking at him and looking at his face, I didn't see any stipple marks.
All right, and so based on the fact that there's no stippling marks, you can say, I know you talk about an indeterminate range of fire, right?
Yes.
And that means, what does that mean to you?
That means I couldn't determine a range of fire
Okay,
based on the autopsy alone.
okay. But because there's no stippling, doesn't it also mean that we know that the gun certainly wasn't next to his forehead?
I don't think it's a contact wound. A contact wound will usually leave like a star-shaped tear, and I don't see that here. If it's not right up against the skin, but if it's very close, you usually see soot and not stippling. I don't see soot, I don't see a star-shaped tear, and I don't see stippling. So that, for me, takes it out beyond the range of an intermediate. So it's either a distant range or indeterminate. An indeterminate range of fire could be that there's some object in between the face and the gun. So if there's a garment, a towel, something like that, that can also cause you to be unable to determine a range of fire.
All right, and so you know that we're talking at least 2 to 3 feet away, if not more, because of the no stippling.
That's likely.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about the wounds on the back, okay? All in all, on the back there was 9 wounds, is that correct? Not on, I'm sorry, in the upper back, let me be more specific.
Yes, a cluster of 9 stab wounds on the upper back.
And I think that's what you called a grouping?
Yes.
And they're in between his shoulders, is that right?
Yes.
And these wounds you'd consider very shallow, is that right?
They are shallow, yes.
And I'm going to show you what's in evidence as 193. All right, that's 193, and that's a picture of the wounds in between the shoulders, the grouping on the back, right?
Yes.
All right, and you see that there's a center. There's these in the center, right?
Yes.
This group, and then there's 3 here to his right shoulder, more towards his right shoulder, I should say.
Yes.
Now the group in the center, those actually are more of a straight-on direction, aren't they?
They appear to be straight, yes.
Okay.
There's about equal amount of tissue on either side.
All right, so in other words, those are not, the ones that are, the grouping in the center, those are not a diagonal, as far as you can tell, diagonal incoming.
Well, I think we got off on a sidetrack on direct, that the directionality, like the way that they're oriented is in a diagonal, but
Okay.
the track itself going into the tissue is pretty much straight on.
Okay, so when you talk about direction of diagonal, you're talking about that the wound is...
The wound itself is diagonal.
Not vertical, up and down.
Right.
Okay. And so directionality, when we talk about directionality, we're talking about where the instrument might have been coming from.
Yes, in
Okay.
terms of a trajectory.
Yes, okay. So in terms of the trajectory, we're looking at the center and the back, and those look like the instrument would have been coming more of a straight on. Is that
More
right?
straight on from back to front, yes.
Okay. And the grouping on the right, we can see those look more like they are coming at a diagonal. The trajectory would be diagonal.
Right. If you look at the tissue on the side, you can see that whitish tissue in the margin, and you're seeing fatty tissue that is being sort of shaved as the knife is going in. So when I look at these 3 wounds here, it looks like the knife is actually going in from a little bit from right to left and into the back.
Okay. So from right to left. So going in from his right shoulder heading towards his middle. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you already talked about these wounds being shallow. When you see shallow wounds, that would typically mean that there's less force applied, right?
Well, it depends on what the object is that's being penetrated. In this case, there's lots of bone underneath these, so whatever force was applied was insufficient to break through a rib or break through into the spine.
Okay. Well, if you assume that the same instrument is used for all these different wounds, we know that some of these wounds are deeper than others, right?
Yes.
And for example, the wound that penetrates into and perforates the vena cava, that one,
Yes.
right? The one that hits the vein that leads to the heart.
Yes.
That one was much deeper, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. And so typically, and that had to go through cartilage also.
Yes.
And so that one would require more force, wouldn't it?
More than just going through soft tissue or fat, yes.
Okay. And in these instances, the wounds on the back, those ones, you didn't see any chipping of the bone or anything like that.
No.
And you'd agree, wouldn't you, that if somebody were standing and they were if the 2 people were standing facing each other and the person with the knife is reaching over the back, that's going to have less force to it, wouldn't it, than somebody who's standing behind and being able to drive the knife right in without stop?
Generally, I'd agree with that, yes.
Okay. All right, so the wound to the one that we were just talking about, to the vena cava. In the pictures we saw that there's, it was basically in the middle of, below his chest, right?
Lower right chest, yes.
Okay. And that one you said would eventually be fatal without medical attention.
Yes.
And that's due to blood loss?
Yes.
That wound, you were able to tell a direction or a trajectory on that wound, right?
Yes, it's pretty much straight into the chest cavity from the right side of the chest.
Okay, doesn't it have a slightly upward trajectory?
If it is, it's very slight because the heart is right, the vena cava is right in that location where the wound is.
Well, doesn't it have, and I don't know, let me know if you need to see a picture, but doesn't it have an undetermined lower edge so that it's going to be a slightly upper trajectory as it's going in?
Undetermined, I don't know what you mean by undetermined lower edge.
Okay.
Undermined?
Undermined, I'm sorry.
Undermined, yes. Well, that would indicate that the blade is angled slightly upward as it's going into the skin. So if you see more tissue on the lower part than the upper part, then that's consistent with that. But we also have to keep in mind that this is a decomposed person. So the characters of the wounds can change a bit.
Okay, but based on what you saw, you would say that based on what you were just talking about, the undermined edge,
Undermining.
based on that, you can tell us that more than likely it was going in an upper trajectory, right?
Generally, that's true, yes.
Okay. And that means it's going from down to up.
Yes,
When we
as
talk
the tip of
upward.
the wound, as the tip of the weapon is going into the body, it has a slightly upward trend to it, yes.
Okay. And that can happen when somebody is taller than the person who has the knife, right? You have to reach up.
In a general way, yes, that's true.
Okay. And you said that one, but that one is mostly straight in as far as in other words, it's not diagonal coming from the right or the left. Is that correct?
The vena cava is slightly on the right side of the body, the right side of the chest, so it's right underneath where the stab wound goes in. So
Okay.
it's essentially straight in and maybe with a slight.
I know you haven't seen that photo prior to today, is that right?
No, I haven't.
Okay. In that photo, can you see a person's head
I think so.
and a shoulder
Yes.
and what appears to be an arm?
Yes.
And then at the very back portion of the picture, and you can tell it's a distance because it's small, is a foot, right?
Could be a foot. Yes.
All right. I'm going to ask you to assume that that picture is of Mr. Alexander, okay?
Okay.
And Judge, I was going to ask to publish to the jury for demonstrative purposes.
And the exhibit number for the record?
192?
162.
162.
And Judge, I would move it into evidence, 162.
Any objection?
No objection.
162 is admitted and you may publish.
Thank you. Okay, so what we were talking about is here you can see what appears to be a head, right?
Yes.
All right, and this appears to be an arm.
I think so, yes.
Okay, and then this would be somebody's shoulder.
Yes.
And then the very distant part of the picture, you can see what appears to be a foot.
Yes.
So in this picture, it would appear to be somebody lying down almost on the floor, right? It appears that the person is lying down.
I think if this is tile here, yes, that would be him laying on his back.
Okay. And you can see what would appear to be blood, right?
Yes.
Something that's dripping over his shoulder.
Yes.
And that would be the person's right shoulder, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And also in this picture, the arm is up, isn't it?
It looks like it's flexed up, yes.
Okay, so in other words, it's not just laying limp on the floor, right?
Right.
Okay. And the head is also up, right?
Yes, except that I don't know what this blue object is, if it's something that the head's resting against or what this is in the foreground.
Does this appear to be like a foot and then a pant leg?
Could be.
Okay. But from what you can tell from the shoulder is definitely off the ground, isn't it?
I think so.
Okay. And assume for a second if this is Mr. Alexander, once the wound to the neck occurs, having his head up and his arm up, certainly his head up, that would be near impossible, wouldn't it?
Well, like I said, he's going to have a few seconds of consciousness, and it's certainly enough if he's laying on the ground to raise an arm or raise a head. That wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility.
But unlikely, isn't it?
I wouldn't say that, no. I wouldn't think he'd be getting up and walking around, but picking your head up or moving your arm is not impossible.
Okay. And you can see the blood coming over the shoulder, right?
Yes.
And if there was a neck wound at this point, wouldn't you expect to see quite a bit more blood than that?
I don't see what's underneath him. That seems to be a lot of blood to me, but I have no way of quantifying or telling how much is here,
Okay.
just based on this photo.
Okay. But we do know that the blood is on the right-hand side, right?
Yes.
And And we can tell that, at least from the picture, it looks like the blood is dripping down the back. In other words, it's like a drip, isn't it?
Right, there's a large area of blood going back, and there's some dripping on either side of that large area of blood.
Okay. And we do know for sure that the gunshot wound was to his right side, wasn't it?
Yes.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about the gunshot wound. Let's see. And we know with the gunshot wound, obviously you discuss it in your examination report, right?
Yes.
And you talk about the track of the bullet begins in the frontal skull, is that right?
Yes.
And when you refer to the frontal skull, you're referring to a bone.
Yes, the frontal bone of the skull.
And we know that it ends in the facial skeleton near the left cheek.
Yes.
And again, as you told me earlier, the facial skeleton, you're referring to a bone.
Right, the maxillary bone.
All right. Now, in your report, and let me just ask you, you did this report, actually you did the autopsy on June 12th of 2008, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So on June 12th of 2008, after doing your report, you found that there was no evidence, no gross evidence of significant intracranial hemorrhage. Is that right? And I'm looking on
Yes.
page 4.
Yes, page 4 of my report.
Okay. And when you talk about significant intracranial hemorrhage, you're talking about bleeding through the brain. Is that right?
Right. And at this point, the brain is really non-existent. It's almost, you can't examine it. It's become liquid.
You can't examine it at all?
It's very difficult.
Okay, well, but didn't you actually take slices of the brain? And I'm referring to page 7.
Yes, so it is softened, it's not liquefied. So it is still present, but it's softened.
All right, so you were able, it's still there, right?
Yes, it's always there, it's just the state that it's in.
Okay, so the state that it was in, though, is that you were able to actually take what's called autolyzed brain, multiple serial sections of autolyzed brain.
Right, so the autolysis or autolyzed, that's a term that refers to the liquefied brain tissue or very softened brain tissue.
Okay, and when you talk about multiple serial sections, does that mean that you're taking slices of the brain to look through it?
As best I can, I'm running a knife through the brain and trying to examine it. But
Okay.
that may be actual sections or may just be in terms of trying to inspect the internal parts of that tissue, whatever's there.
Okay, but according to your report, that's what you did, right?
Right.
And in there, so in this part of your report, after going through these sections, again, you say it does not reveal the presence of grossly apparent trauma. Is that right?
Right.
So by taking through these sections, again, you don't find any evidence of trauma or like a bullet track through the brain.
Nothing so clearly defined. No hemorrhage, no foreign bodies, no metal fragments. Right.
Okay. And we know that people who have had injuries to their brains, depending on the section of the brain, they're not always incapacitated. Isn't that true?
For the most part, if you have a bullet pass through the brain, you're not going to be standing, you're not going to be functional, you're going to fall. And like I said earlier in direct, it may not be immediately fatal. In fact, it likely wasn't. Passing through the frontal part of the brain, especially, it's not as vital. I mean, they're all vital structures, but it's not as vital as the brain stem or the back parts of the brain.
Well, just so we're clear, you don't actually have any medical evidence of it passing through the brain, right?
It had to have passed through the brain.
You don't have any medical evidence of that, do you?
I do. The skull is perforated where the brain is, so it had to have passed through the brain. The brain is there.
But you have no idea you have no medical evidence of how far or what part of the brain it exactly would have hit, right?
It would have passed through the right frontal lobe.
Uh-huh.
I just don't have any evidence of hemorrhage now because of decomposition. But it had to have passed through the brain because of the part of the skull that was injured. The brain, in a young person especially, is flush against that structure. The brain occupies the entire skull. So to have a hole in the skull here and an exit in here, it has to pass through the brain.
Well, the exit's there's no exit. What do you?
Exit from the skull cavity into the face.
Uh-huh. So, but what you're saying though is you have no idea where that bullet might have hit. It could have just grazed the tip of the brain, right?
No, it had to have passed through the right frontal lobe of the brain based on where these holes in the skull are.
And
There's no way it could have avoided the brain.
Okay, and you're sure of that?
Yes.
What I was talking about earlier was that with brain injuries, I mean, we've all heard the stories of the person who had the arrow went through his skull and hit his brain, or the person who had I don't know if it was an arrow or what, but actually goes through the brain, and these people are coming to the ER.
Right.
You've heard those stories, right?
Those are different.
Okay, but those are people who've had brain injuries, right?
Not with projectiles.
Okay.
With firearms, you don't just have an arrow or an object passing through the head. With a firearm, you also have gas and you have an expansile cavity that damages the brain as it goes through. So you can shoot an arrow through the brain. It's a much lower velocity projectile and will not cause a large temporary cavity to open up in the brain tissue like a projectile would, like a firearm projectile would.
So those don't cause as much damage as a bullet does, is what you're saying?
That's right.
But you didn't see any damage, even in your slices, right?
Right. I could not document the damage because of the decomposition.
Your findings during the autopsy, that would be something that you would explain to Detective Flores, right?
Preliminarily, yes.
Okay. And he's going to get a copy of it?
A copy of my final report?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And like you said before, he's free to call you with questions if he doesn't know what you mean by something.
Yes.
And do you remember speaking to Detective Flores about close to a year later after the autopsy?
No.
Do you remember speaking to Detective Flores ever again?
No.
Do you think you didn't? Or do you just not remember?
I don't recall. No.
Do you have any memory of ever speaking to Detective Flores about this particular autopsy after June 12th?
No.
So then any information that Detective Flores would have gotten from you would have been from June 12th of 2008, is that right?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, you spoke to him on June 12th, right?
I assume so. He's listed as present on my report, but I don't remember him being there.
Okay. And you said you've done 6,000 or so autopsies?
Something like that.
All right. And when police are involved, police have been present during your autopsies, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it makes it difficult. I'm sure they run together, do they not?
Yes.
But you know in your report that Detective Flores was there. You know that because it was documented.
Just, yes, the documentation.
All right. And so the information about, let's talk about the gunshot wound first. So any information that Detective Flores had about the gunshot wound, I guess then would have come from June 12th, right? If you don't remember ever talking to him again.
Objection, speculation is for Detective Flores, may I take this information?
Overruled, you may answer.
Sorry, can you ask it again?
You're the only doctor who did this autopsy,
Correct.
right? And so any information that Detective Flores has about the autopsy itself would have come from you, right?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Any information would have come from the autopsy that you did.
Objection, speculation, and as to what information she's talking about.
Sustained.
You provided your report to Detective Flores, right?
Not myself personally, but my office would have mailed it to him.
Yes, it goes to the police department, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Isn't it true that at some point you told Detective Flores that you believed the first wound was the shot to the head?
But I don't recall ever saying that.
So you think you never told Detective Flores that?
I don't think that's consistent with the evidence that I have, and I don't remember ever saying anything like that.
Okay, so what your testimony is, I just want to be clear, is that you never told Detective Flores that the gunshot wound was the first wound.
I don't believe I ever said that, no.
And do you remember telling Detective Flores that you knew this because the gunshot wound wouldn't have completely incapacitated somebody?
I don't recall saying that either.
Is that something that you think you would have never said to Detective Flores?
I think I've said it here in court that I don't think it would immediately incapacitate him or kill him, but it would be a serious injury. But I don't recall telling Detective Flores that, no.
Okay, so let me back up for a second. So you're saying that the gunshot wound is not immediately incapacitating?
I would say not immediately fatal.
Okay,
But
I'm not talking about fatal, I'm just talking about incapacitating.
I think, yes, I think that it would be incapacitating. It's passing through his brain, so yes.
Okay, so, and that's assuming it passed through his brain. You would say it's incapacitating, right?
I'm saying it did pass through his brain.
All right, and so, so then you wouldn't have told Detective Flores that that particular gunshot wound would not have completely incapacitated someone, right? I guess you wouldn't have said that.
I don't recall having a conversation with a detective at all about anything.
I'm sorry, I missed the last
I don't recall having a conversation with the detective at all about this case.
Okay. So, do you remember then telling Detective Flores that Mr. Alexander could have been unconscious, but then you suspect that he became conscious again?
No, I don't recall saying that.
Okay, and you suspect that he became conscious, or that you knew he was conscious because there's defensive wounds?
Well, I think you'd have to be conscious during the defensive wounds. I don't recall telling Detective Flores that.
Okay. But if the gunshot wound comes first, and then the defensive wounds come after that, obviously he would have to be conscious for that.
I don't think that makes sense. I don't think he got the gunshot wound and then got defensive wounds. I think he would have been unconscious.
Okay, so that's something you never told Detective Flores?
Again, I don't recall ever having a conversation with him about anything.
So if you don't recall ever having a conversation with Detective Flores, and we know that Detective Flores was at the autopsy, right?
Right.
So then, can we assume then that you never spoke to him again?
That was 10 years ago. I don't remember.
It wasn't 10 years ago, it
Or
was in 2008.
2, 6.
4.5.
Several years ago.
Okay,
I
so you don't remember.
recall speaking to him again, no.
So then it's possible that you spoke to Detective Flores?
Sure.
Okay. And it's then possible that you might have said these things to Detective Flores?
I don't believe I would say those things, no. I don't think they're consistent with what I'm saying here.
Okay. And so, I guess the one thing we can agree on is that the wound to the neck, that one was most certainly fatal the quickest, right?
Yes, that's the most significant wound in my opinion, yes.
Okay. Do you remember giving your opinion to Detective Flores that the cut to the throat was the last wound?
No.
And so if Detective Flores would have testified in some other hearing that that's what you told him, he's wrong?
Objection, vouching speculation.
Sustained.
I take it you have no memory of discussing the scene photographs with Detective Flores?
I don't, no.
And in discussing the scene photographs with Detective Flores, telling Detective Flores that the gunshot wound would not have completely incapacitated Mr. Alexander?
Again, I've been answering this question. I do not have any recollection of that, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sir, in terms of the sequencing of the wounds, do you remember having an interview with this individual sitting here with the glasses? Do you remember having an interview with him?
Vaguely, I do remember the defense interview.
You were interviewed with regard to this case, right?
Yes,
And you have a copy of that interview, don't you?
I do.
And you were asked about the sequencing of these injuries, weren't you?
Yes.
Objection, reading.
Sustained.
All right. Did you talk to them about the sequencing of the injuries?
Yes.
And at any time, did you stop the interview and say, no, I don't want to talk to you about the sequencing of the injuries?
No.
And were you asked about the sequencing of the injuries?
Yes.
And what did you tell them during that interview that you had with them?
That I felt that the gunshot wound may have been last, but at any event, the gunshot wounds and the wounds to the neck would have had to have come after the defensive wounds of the hands.
And is that what you told us today?
Yes.
Now, sir, with regard to the procedure or the process that takes place when a body is brought in terms of when you conduct the examination, who is in the room with you?
Forensic technicians, photographers, sometimes medical students.
Do you take the photographs?
No.
In terms of the individuals from law enforcement, you indicated that they're there via your report, right?
Yes, they're in an observation area.
But in terms of the examination room itself, is the detective there looking over your shoulder and questioning you as you conduct this examination? Is that how it's done out there?
No.
Where are they, physically speaking, the detective, when this examination is going on?
They're in an observation bay separated by glass.
And if they want to talk to you during this particular process, how does that work? In other words, if they want to provide you advice as to whether or not an injury went through the brain or not, how is it that they provide this advice to you?
They don't, generally.
But if they do want to talk to you, how does it happen?
They have a handset they can pick up, and I can hear them in the autopsy area. And then I will come to the door or the window, and I'll talk to them.
And as you're conducting this examination, is it your practice to immediately form an opinion as to which injury is first, which is second, and which is third, if there's three of them?
No.
Why not? Why would you not immediately tell them, oh, I know this one's the first one, this one's the second one, this is the third one? Why wouldn't you do it that way?
Well, often we can never establish that, but I do want to have an opportunity to look at the whole case, get investigative reports back, get toxicology, histology, and then come to a final report.
And this report that you prepare, when is it due? In other words, how long does it take you to prepare this report with your impressions?
Varies, minimum of a month, maximum of 4 to 5 months, depending.
In this case, I think you conducted the autopsy, June 16th, I think?
June 12th.
June 12th. And what date is your report dated?
July 15th.
And how many, so that's roughly what, a month later?
5 weeks, so, yeah.
And how many pages is your report?
8 pages.
And in that report, is there any place that indicates that the gunshot wound or which injury was first or last? Anywhere does it indicate that?
No.
In terms of you being asked about the sequence of events, in terms of these fatal injuries, when, according to your records, was the first time that you were asked about the sequencing of events?
According to my recollection, it would have been at the defense interview.
And before that, you didn't write it in your report, right?
That's right.
And is it your practice to write the sequencing of events in your report?
No.
Why not?
It would be speculative, and I am simply providing information about the injuries that I see.
And then once you've had a chance to have all this information before you, that's when you make your determination then, right?
Yes.
You were asked about this photograph here, which is exhibit number 162. Let me have it marked since it is evidence. One of the things that you weren't able to see is there's a date and time associated with that, correct?
Yes.
What is the date, if you can see it, and the time?
June 4th, 2008, 5:32 in the evening.
16 seconds.
16
right?
seconds.
And it does show a head, right?
Yes.
And you were asked over and over not whether this was a foot. Do you remember that?
Yes.
If that were a human being's foot, would you have any problem saying that perhaps this human being had another foot if they were a normal human being?
No.
And would you have any problem saying that this individual, if he had 2 feet, would also have 2 arms?
Yes,
Well, you would know that they would, right?
yes.
Do you know whether or not the right arm, the left arm, do you know what that right or left arm is doing?
No,
Do you know whether or not that right arm or left arm is holding what you said may have been a right arm, whether or not that's holding up that arm?
that's certainly possible.
And you don't know what, for example, the left arm is doing, do you?
That's correct.
And this part up here, I know that this is straining a little bit of credibility, and I don't know medical science, but that's the top of the head, right?
Yes.
And if I'm wrong, tell me that, right?
Yes,
And this part right here is the neck, right?
yes.
You see any blood coming down this from the top of the head?
It's very dark. I can't say for sure whether.
But can you see any blood coming from the neck area there?
Yes,
And if you see the blood coming from the neck area and you know the injuries, and assuming this is Travis Alexander, what would you associate that blood with?
they cut to the throat.
And with regard to the injury to the chest area, if his head is up in that position and his arm is being lifted in that position, and knowing what you know about gravity, would you think that this blood was coming from the injury to his chest or the neck area?
Neck area.
So one of the things that you were asked about was the wounds to the back. Do you remember
Yes.
being asked about that? And this question may or may not be your area, but with regard to human beings, are men's arms longer than women's or not? I don't know.
Generally longer, yes.
And with regard to a person's body, generally speaking, is a man's body, upper chest, is that bigger or smaller than a woman's upper chest?
Bigger.
Bigger. And you were asked about the injuries that were to the back. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And you were asked, well, is it possible that somebody could have come around and with given what those injuries are there, that they would have come around and done this and done the injuries back then? Do you remember being asked that?
yes,
And you said, well, it's possible, right?
yes.
With regard to that particular scenario, is it also possible that an individual could be hunched over and somebody came up behind him and started inflicting those kinds of injuries? Are they consistent with that?
Yes,
And with regard to the injury to the chest, you said, well, it's slightly upward. Do you remember saying that?
yes,
Is it possible that with regard to that injury, it could have come up like this? Was that possible?
yes.
Is there any impediment or anything in the way to doing something like that?
No,
Do we have to wrap arms around somebody to get that injury, or can we do it just like this?
it can be from the front or back. Yes,
What, is it consistent, that injury, if somebody is sitting down, a male, Mr. Alexander, is it consistent if he's sitting down and somebody is standing and you come up and do that? Is that consistent with that?
yes,
The issue of the gunshot wound. Did the gunshot wound go through the frontal lobe or not?
it did.
If it goes through the frontal lobe, what does the human body do when a gunshot goes through the frontal lobe?
Well, there's a shock delivered to the entire brain as a projectile is passing through. So it's not just like an arrow or a nail. You've also got expanding gases. You've got a tumbling projectile. So generally, you're going to have, it's a shock situation, neurologic shock, and those people are incapacitated.
And that gunshot wound that we're talking about, did it go through the mouth or not?
It goes above the mouth. It's in the sinus structures. So bleeding out of the mouth is certainly possible.
And it ended up in the left cheek, correct?
Cheek, yes.
The distance of the gunshot wound, you said it was indeterminate, right?
Yes,
And that's based on the fact that you don't see any stippling there, right?
that's right.
And indeterminate to you in this case, if it's indeterminate, I know what the word means, but how far, can you give us any parameters whatsoever as to how far or how close the gunshot was?
Again, I'm not a ballistics expert, but generally speaking, for most firearms, it's going to be a minimum distance of a couple of feet, at least.
Okay. And this gunshot wound, was there hemorrhaging that was associated with it on the path that it traveled?
In the scalp and in the cheek area, there is some hemorrhage. There is no hemorrhage detected in the skull itself.
And what does that mean to you in terms of the sequencing, whether or not the person was alive or not alive, if there's no blood there?
If there's less blood, it may mean that the other injuries preceded that, and there was just less bleeding because there was less blood to come out of the body.
Could this person have been dead at the time that the gunshot wound was inflicted?
That's possible, yes.
And in terms of what an individual may have said or didn't say, you did indicate that, your report does indicate that Detective Flores was at the autopsy, right?
Yes.
Does it have an MD after his name? Maybe I missed that.
No.
So in terms of this individual, Detective Flores, what he may or may have said, do you have any idea where he gained his knowledge?
I don't know.
But your knowledge is based on what you saw, what? At the autopsy, your schooling, and anything else that was provided to you, right?
Yes.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Does any member of the jury have a question for this witness?
Elizabeth A. Northcutt,
And who do you work for?
the City of Mesa Police Department Forensic Services Section.
What do you do for them?
I'm a forensic firearms examiner.
And as a firearms examiner, what are your day-to-day duties?
I do firearms examinations, cartridge case and bullet examinations, distance determinations, serial number restorations, respond to crime scenes for documentation.
The microphone's a little bit far away, if you don't mind. It's the one in front of you. That one. How long have you been employed involving this particular area?
In firearms,
Yes.
8 years.
And in this, involving the investigation or the murder of Travis Alexander, did you have occasion to take a look at a cartridge casing?
Yes, I did.
What is a cartridge casing?
A cartridge casing is a container that holds powder, a primer, and a bullet in a cartridge, which is a basic unit of ammunition.
You said that it holds a bullet. Does the casing always have to hold a bullet or not?
No, it doesn't.
What if a bullet is fired? What happens to the casing?
Then it's a fired cartridge case.
With regard to the casing, if it is fired from a semi-automatic handgun, what happens to the casing after the bullet is fired?
It is extracted and ejected.
What is a semi-automatic handgun, and why is the casing extracted and ejected?
A semi-automatic handgun is a handgun that extracts and ejects fired cartridge cases. When the cartridge case is fired, the firing pin hits the primer, which is in the back of the cartridge case, and that ignites the powder inside the cartridge case, which begins to burn, producing gas. That gas makes pressure inside of the cartridge case, which then pushes the bullet down the barrel and on its way toward a target. The pressure also pushes back on the slide in a semi-auto pistol and extracts and ejects that cartridge case.
Are you familiar with a revolver?
Yes, I am.
And in terms of the casing issue and extraction and putting it out there, what is the difference?
A revolver does not automatically extract and eject the fired cartridge case. You have to manually open the revolver's action and remove the cartridge case before you can put another cartridge in a chamber.
So if you find a casing at a scene, for example, what does that indicate to you? In terms of whether it's a semi-automatic or a revolver.
With revolvers, you typically do not find cartridge cases at a scene.
Why is that?
And you'd have to reload the revolver. You'd have to open the action, remove the cartridge case, and leave it at the scene.
Well, I think what I'm hearing you say is that with a revolver, you'd have to fire it, open up the revolver part, take it out and drop it, and then close it up again, right?
That's correct.
And with the semi-automatic, you fire the gun and the casing comes out automatically, right?
That's correct.
So if you see one at a scene, the indication is perhaps is a semi-automatic, would be your opinion, right?
Yes.
Now, take a look at Exhibit 218 and see if you're familiar with that.
Yes, I am.
Do you recognize it?
Yes,
And have you had occasion to examine it?
I have.
What kind of, all it is, not all, but it's a casing. What is it that you did with it to further this investigation, or what was it that you were asked to do?
I examined the cartridge case and observed that it had a head stamp
Okay?
that read Win 25 Auto.
What does that mean to you, Win 25 Auto?
It is manufactured or branded as Winchester.
And when it says auto, I thought we were talking about semi-automatic handguns. Well, does the fact that it say auto on it mean something to you?
The auto is part of the name of the cartridge, and it designates that it is designed to be fired in a auto-loading pistol.
It's what now? What did you say? I didn't understand what you said.
The auto in 25 Auto is part of the caliber designation for the cartridge case. And so the auto is, in this particular instance, indicates that it was this cartridge, it's the designation. So 25 Auto is designed to be fired in an auto-loading pistol.
So are you saying that this 25 auto can only be fired in an automatic handgun? Is that what you're telling me, or not?
No, that's...
What is it that you're telling me? Is that just the name of it, Winchester Auto, 25
Yes.
Auto? Is that all it is? Is that all you're telling me?
It's a caliber designation, yes.
Okay, and in anything else with regard to that casing?
I entered that casing into the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network.
Why would you do that?
The database holds cartridge case images from other crimes, and we enter images of other crime evidence in that database to look for hits or high confidence candidates. So when you enter a cartridge case into that, it gives you a list of possible candidates back. You go through those correlations and you determine if there are any high confidence candidates, so if there are any hits. I did not find any in this case.
So in this case, you entered it in a database and you got nothing back, right?
That's correct.
Anything else with regard to that casing that you did?
No.
Did you also have occasion to work with exhibit number 244? And this is the bullet from the medical examiner.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and if we take a look at it here, it's exhibit 210. You see that?
Yes,
Is that the bullet?
it appears to be.
When you say it appears to be, always leaves room for doubt. Do you need to open it to make sure or not? Why don't you open it up and take a look at it to make sure it is the bullet?
Yes, it is.
Okay, if you could go ahead and seal it and put it back for me. With regard to this bullet, were you able to determine the caliber of this bullet? In other words, can you just take a look at that bullet and go back and see what the caliber of it is?
I examined the basic characteristics, physical characteristics of that bullet, and I measured the base diameter, which helps us to figure out caliber. I also looked at the bullet weight and the other style that the bullet has. And all of those led me to the determination that this is consistent with a .25 auto bullet.
So you can go back and attempt to do that then, right?
Yes.
And what is it that indicate, how much does a .25 caliber bullet weigh?
Typically about 50 grains.
50 grains?
Yes.
And how much did this bullet weigh?
44.8.
And the fact that it didn't weigh the same, does that indicate to you that it isn't the .25 or that it is, given the circumstances?
No, bullets are frequently damaged when they're fired, and they can lose weight that way. So that's not a big discrepancy, 44.8 to 50 grains.
And anything else about the bullets that you found? For example, any markings, striations on it, anything like that?
Yes, there were rifling impressions on the bullet.
When you say rifling impressions, those are impressions on the bullet, right?
That's correct.
And these impressions on the bullet, what are they made by?
They're left by rifling inside the firearm.
So is it the muzzle of the gun that leaves them? Is that where the rifling is?
The rifling is from the entire barrel.
So
of
it's in the
firearm.
barrel of the gun.
Yes.
And what characteristics did this one have?
This one had 6 rifling. What rifling is it's a series of helical or spiral grooves that go the length of a barrel. And what they do is they help impart stability to the fired bullet.
And so, looking at the rifling, I think you said it was 6 lands and grooves, I think?
6 lands and grooves with a right hand twist. They can either be right or left hand twist.
So 6 lands and grooves with right hand twist, is that consistent with a .25 caliber bullet? Or not? Or it has nothing to do with that?
It has nothing to do with it.
Okay. But is it your opinion that this is a .25 caliber bullet?
Yes, fired .25 caliber bullet.
To get back very quickly to the casing, take a look at Exhibit 114. It'll autofocus in a minute. With regard to the casing that you looked at, is that the casing that you looked at?
It appears to be.
When you say it appears to be, why don't you go ahead and take a look at the casing? Do you have that up there with you?
I do.
And take a look at the markings on it. What item number was the casing out of the scene as indicated by the exhibit?
1LB.
1LB, but it was 1, right?
Yes.
And if you take a look at exhibit number 114, what number is by the casing?
1.
I don't have any other questions.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Ms. Northcutt.
Good afternoon.
Through all of your examinations that you did on the casing and the bullet, you were never able to match either one to a specific gun, right?
Did not have a firearm in this case, no.
And in fact, this casing and, this particular casing actually can match several different types of guns. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you're familiar with crime scenes, aren't you?
Yes.
And in crime scenes, especially if there's a struggle that is going on, you know that casings aren't always left where they are ejected.
That's correct.
Sometimes they can be kicked around.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's all you got.
Any redirect?
With regard to this .25 caliber casing, is it a magical casing?
No.
Objection argument.
Sustained.
Is there anything unusual about this .25 caliber casing?
No.
And so that if, for example, there's blood on the ground, assuming that you were talking about a crime scene, you've been to crime scenes, right?
Yes.
And there is blood on the ground. Take a look at Exhibit 114. See that there?
Yes.
See, there's a reddish brown substance there, right?
Yes.
And you see that the casing is there, right? Number
Yeah.
1, right?
Yes.
And does the top of it have any blood on it? Can you see that?
No.
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
It's beyond the scope of cross.
With regard to this particular casing, you see the top of it?
Yes.
Is there any reddish substance consistent with blood on top of it?
No.
And this reddish substance is where? Underneath it or on it?
Underneath it.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Does any member of the jury have a question for the...
State do you live in?
Utah.
At some point, did you meet somebody by the name of Jodi Arias?
Yes.
And when did you meet her?
It would have been at an Oklahoma convention for our legal shield, which was then called Prepaid Legal Business. It's a national convention. We all come together. I met her there at one of those events.
And what was the date
April
of what year?
2008.
And how was it that you and she met? Did you see each other across the room, or how did it work?
Yeah, we work with really close organizations. It was a kind of a team training inside of the national event. Our team got together for, planning what we're going to do next to kind of take the, our businesses forward. It was what we call a breakout session. And so that's when I first saw her and met her.
And in terms of meeting her, did you approach her or did she approach you?
I'm not sure.
And this PPL, what do those initials stand for?
Prepaid legal.
And what was prepaid legal back in April of 2008?
I'm sorry?
What kind of business was it?
We help people get access to attorneys so they don't have to worry so much about the high hourly cost.
Is it sort of like selling legal insurance? Is that what it is?
Sure.
And is it still known as prepaid legal, or is it known as something else?
It's been rebranded. It's now called Legal Shield.
So you met the defendant back in April of 2008. Did you guys exchange numbers, or how was it? Or did you ever see her again after that?
Yeah, we spoke at that event, talked to her a little bit. We just came out of the breakout session. I had just received a Rising Star Award from one of my mentors, Dave Hall. After that event, we started talking. Can't remember if I'm the one that approached her. She approached me. And, she asked me, she said things sound like they're going pretty well out there in Utah. I said yes, asked her where she was from. Got to know each other just a little bit. We talked for about 5 minutes, and I asked for her number. Where
did she tell you that she was from?
California.
What else did she say? I know you just sort of summarized, but tell us what she said.
Just briefly, that she, I believe, was a director in the company. She explained a little bit about her business, and she said if I ever needed any assistance of anybody out there in California, I was welcome to call her. And
this individual, Jodi Arias, that we've been talking about, is she in court today?
Yes.
Tell me where she is seated and what she's wearing.
She's over there in a black long sleeve shirt.
Is she at the end of the table?
Yes.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the identification of the defendant?
Yes.
So, after that, did you continue having contact with her or not?
Yes. I don't believe we spoke for maybe 3 or 4 weeks after the convention. I think we did a kind of a party for Utah before one of our big events. And I think we were actually playing pool with a friend of ours named Zion Lovinger. And Zion, somehow Jodi's name came up and asked me if I knew who she was or how we had known each other. And eventually he maybe kind of played matchmaker a little bit and got, we talked about it. And then I ended up giving her a call, I think even that night at that event.
And how much time elapsed between the time that you met her and the time that you actually placed this call?
Probably 3 or 4 weeks.
And when you called her, what did she say?
I asked her if she remembered who I was. She said yes. And it just was, it seemed like a pleasant conversation. It went on for maybe 30 minutes for an hour maybe.
And during the time that you and she spoke, was there an agreement or an indication that you were going to call her back, she was going to call you back? What was how was that conversation ended?
I don't know if we necessarily agreed, but I think we probably talked the very next day.
Okay. And did this sort of continue on where you continued to talk and that sort of thing?
Yeah, from that point, we probably talked at least 3 or 4, sometimes 5 times a week. Either she would call me or I'd call her, usually around 10 or 11 at night when our days were kind of done.
Did there come a time where the two of you agreed, or she agreed, to come out and visit you?
Yes.
What was the name of the town that you were living in back then?
Salt Lake City.
Is Salt Lake City near West Jordan?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is upper. Mm-hmm.
And were you living in Salt Lake City or in West Jordan?
West Jordan.
And when you say West Jordan, describe the living arrangements back then?
Back then, I actually lived in a kind of a side apartment with my family. that their house is in West Jordan.
Did that side apartment have its own entrance?
Yes.
And did it have its own kitchen? Is that a no?
No, I'm sorry, no, it didn't.
So there's this sort of agreement that she's going to come out. Do you know about when you guys reached this agreement that she was going to come out?
It would have been the end of May.
And do you know what her itinerary was when she was going to come out there?
I can't remember for sure. It seemed like she was going to be on a road trip, or she was just going to come out and see me directly. I don't really remember, but she was going to come out and just spend one day because she would have to get back to work. So she's going to come out probably about a week from the time we originally talked about her coming.
Did she tell you what route she was going to take to visit you?
I think she had a friend that had a baby that was born or something. She wanted to visit her friend. If I understand it right, she lived in Northern California, so she was going to drive down to LA first, LA area, and visit that friend. And then from there, she was going to come and see me.
And are you familiar how to get from the LA area up to Salt Lake City, Utah area?
Yeah, it's I-15 freeway the whole way.
And when you spoke to her about this particular trip and her itinerary, what day of the week was she supposed to arrive to see you?
I believe it was, I think it was Wednesday. That's the time that we normally have our training. And I think she was going to be there on Wednesday morning is when she had said. We talked the night before, maybe around 9 or 10 at night.
Okay, so you talked the night before around 9 or 10 at night, and the expectation was that she was going to be there the next day, which was a Wednesday, around what time?
I knew it was about a 12-hour drive. A little concerned about her driving overnight because it's 9 p.m. She said she'd be fine, and she'd obviously pull over just to be safe if she needed to take a nap or something. So 12-hour drive, I would expected her maybe at 9 if she would drive straight through, but of course probably she wouldn't drive straight through, so I thought maybe around 12 or 1 I was kind of expecting her to be there.
All right. So the next day, which was the Wednesday, around 9 o'clock, did she arrive up there?
No.
And you talked something about training that day. What are we talking about when you say training?
Associates get together, kind of learn more about the membership and how how the services again can serve families and things like that. And so we come together on a training on Wednesday night. And so I think she was even going to attend that training with us.
What time was the training on Wednesday night?
Training was 7 p.m.
And where was the training scheduled to take place?
In Sandy, Utah, which is about 10 minutes south of West Jordan.
And did you attend that training that Wednesday?
Yes.
So it's 10 o'clock, noon. Did she arrive by noon?
No. And at noon, I was obviously concerned because she's driving throughout the night. And I tried to call her at 9, but her phone went straight to voicemail, so I couldn't get through. Tried to call again at noon. And I wasn't too concerned at 9. At noon or 1 when I didn't get a hold of her, at that point I was a little concerned, but it still was just going straight to voicemail. And
so it was just going straight to voicemail every day?
Yeah, I wasn't ringing.
All right, go ahead. And how many tries did you give it, let's say, after 1 o'clock in the afternoon to reach
Maybe
it?
two more times. I also contacted another friend that I think she was going to visit while she was there, Mark and Leslie Jodi. Leslie seemed to know her a little bit better than I did. I talked to her for 5 minutes at the convention, and then I talked to her a lot on the phone before she came over for about a month and a half. We'd have a lot of conversations throughout the week, but Leslie Jodi seemed to know her a little bit better. And so I asked Leslie if she had heard from her or if possibly she knew her number to her grandparents or whoever it was that she was living with, and maybe see if she was okay.
Were you successful after this call to Leslie Jodi in receiving a return call from the defendant?
No. So when we couldn't get a hold of her, I had just hoped that maybe she could figure out where our training was, and so I thought maybe I'd see her at the training.
So you went to the training, and you said that started at 7 o'clock, correct?
7 p.m. Mm-hmm.
And you hadn't heard from her at that point, right?
No.
So the training lasted for how long?
2.5 hours.
So that would place you at what, 9:30 in the
9:30.
evening?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go after that training?
At that time, we had a few of our buddies. Every week, we'd go over to the Cheesecake Factory. and we'd just hang out, maybe grab a drink, sometimes grab an appetizer or something. We'd just sit there and chat. So that's where we go.
And while you were at the Cheesecake Factory, which would have been after 9:30, right?
Yeah, we got there probably about 10 p.m.
And while you were there at the Cheesecake Factory, what town is that in? That Cheesecake Factory that you went in?
Murray, which is maybe 10 minutes east of West Jordan.
Receive a call from the defendant.
Yes.
About what time was that?
Maybe we had talked about it a little bit. I knew that she knew some other people at the table, like Mike Bertot was there.
But you received the call from her.
Around 10:30 p.m.
Right. And what did she say to you when she called?
I mean, obviously, first I just said, Jodi, and she said, hey, and she almost sounded apologetic from the get-go, and I just said, hey, are you okay? And then she said, yes, I'm fine, and I just asked her, where she's been, and how.
So you asked her where she's been. What did she tell you that she'd been?
She said a few things happened. For one, I think she said she's kind of airheaded like that, and she took the wrong freeway, and she drove the wrong direction for many hours, and then at some point she got tired, and so she fell asleep, and she couldn't believe how long she slept by the time she woke up. And I just said, okay, well, good, I'm just glad you're okay. I couldn't get through to your phone. And when I said that, she told me that she had lost her car charger, she hadn't forgot to bring it, maybe pack it, and so her phone had been dead all day.
If she'd forgotten the charger and her phone had been dead all day, how was it that she was then able to call you from that same phone?
She actually calls for speculation.
I think she told me.
Sustained rephrase.
Did she tell you something about that?
She told me that she had, I think, bought it from a gas station or something she found one.
So she told you she bought another charger, right?
Right.
And how long did this conversation last?
I could be wrong, but maybe 30 minutes to an hour.
And
It could be longer, I'm not sure.
during that time that you were talking to her, was there ever an indication as to when she was going to, did you and she talk about when she was going to arrive in the Salt Lake City area?
Yeah, it seemed like she was still like a long ways away. She wasn't sure exactly where she was at, so we didn't know exactly how long it was going to take her to get there, so she had to kind of get her bearings.
So she told you she didn't know where she was, right?
Right.
Then, and what else did she say?
I remember at some point, and I don't know if it was this conversation or if we disconnected for a couple hours and then she called back. I really can't remember. But at some point, I went into the living room where my father was, and I asked him what freeway should she take at this point where she's at. And so he also knew that she was coming. And I don't even remember where she said she was, but it seemed like a pretty simple answer. And then it seemed like she could have been maybe 7 or 8 hours away at that point. It still took her another 12 hours to actually get to my house.
So she called that evening, and then you have this call around up to 11 o'clock.
Maybe, yeah.
And after that, she may have called one other time, right? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to remember now.
And then after that, did you receive another call late in the evening or not? Was there any other contact with her?
No, not until the next morning.
Did she know how to get to your house? Had you given her directions?
Yeah, she must have had my address or something. She knew how to get to my house. She had never been there before, but she knew how to get there.
And what time did she get there to your house?
Again, not sure, but maybe around 10 or 11 the next day. I'm not positive on that.
And that would have been the Wednesday, right?
That would have been Thursday now.
That was Thursday then. And she was supposed to get there Wednesday.
Yeah, so this is 24 hours after I was originally expecting her.
And did you have any plans for lunch during that?
I had an appointment, and so I'm not really clear of how this happened, but I know that she followed me to the appointment.
But let me stop you there. Where was this appointment? And what was
it? At a place
for?
called Jim's Restaurant. It was less than a mile from my house.
And what was the purpose of the appointment?
I had an associate on my team who had another gentleman who felt like he had some connections, some people who could use our help from our company. And so we arranged the time for me to go and meet with him and do a presentation.
What time was the meeting scheduled for?
Could have been 11 or 12, I'm not positive.
So she arrives before that meeting, right?
Yes.
After she arrives there, does she stay a long time there at your house in West Jordan or not?
I don't remember anything before that event, and that meeting might have been the first time I think she came straight to that sit down with me because of the time she was showing up, and then she actually was with me during that sit down.
All right, so she was there during the meeting? Right?
Yes, she actually followed me in her car there.
How far away was the meeting in terms of travel from your house to the restaurant? How far was it?
A mile.
And on the way from your house to the restaurant, you say you're driving your own car? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Is she driving her own car?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yes,
And-
yes, she was for sure.
So she's driving her car, and as you're driving to this place, does something happen?
We get pulled over by a police officer.
When you say we, did you get pulled over too?
No, I was in front of her, so the police officer, her car was behind mine, police officer was behind hers.
And who did he pull over? Both of you, her or you?
Jodi.
And what did you do when the police officer pulled her over?
Just sat there, looked in my rearview mirror at them talking to each other.
And how far from your house, or how much had you traveled before she was pulled over?
700 yards. I mean, we pretty much got pulled over right away.
And after you're watching in the rearview mirror, what do you see?
He's talking to her, and eventually, it didn't look like he gave her a ticket or anything.
Why do you say that?
Because I didn't see him hand her, and maybe he gave her a warning. I'm not sure. I was trying to figure out if she got a ticket or not. But I didn't really find out the story, I don't believe, until we went to the restaurant. I might have got out and talked to her there. I don't think so. I think we went over to the restaurant before I got the story, what happened.
Okay, so you went to the restaurant and you had the story. What was the story that she told you?
She said it was a funny story. He pulled her over because her back license plate was upside down. And then I asked her how that would happen, and I think she had, what she told me is she was coming out of a Maverick or a restaurant or something like that. And
Where? What?
sometime on her trip to get to my house.
All right.
And when she came out, there was these kids that were goofing around at the front of her car with her front license plate. And when they saw her, they were laughing. They dropped the license plate and took off. And she told me she thought that was the only thing they did. So she just took that license plate and put it in her back seat, or maybe put it back on. I don't remember. But she thought that's all they did. But what she told me is that apparently they also switched my back license plate and turned it upside down. And so that's why the police officer had pulled her over. So we laughed about it, and that was it.
Do you know whether or not you helped her reaffix the license plate right side up?
I honestly don't know. I think I might have fixed it for her, but I cannot remember.
So then you go to this meeting, the meeting is completed and she's there, right? Is what you told us.
Yeah, and she's had to sit down with me probably around 11 or 12.
After that, where did the two of you go?
We went back to my house.
Okay, and when you go back to your house, what did the two of you do?
We talked for a while. I think we agreed that we were going to watch a movie or something like that. And that's what we did. We turned on a movie.
And what happened during the movie?
At some point, we were talking and we kissed.
And did this kissing continue, or did it just stop at one kiss?
Eventually, we kissed probably many times. Every time we started kissing, it got a little more escalated.
And with regard to the physical contact beyond the kissing, was there any of that?
Clothes never came off. At some point, she was kissing my neck, I was kissing hers, but clothes never came off.
How about your hands?
Yeah, my hands were, I never touched her breasts or anything like that. At one point, I had my hands on her thighs. She was, she was definitely seemed to be into the moment, and, eventually we stopped.
Before you stopped, did your hands ever go near her vaginal area?
Yes.
When you say that you stopped, at any point did she say to you, we need to stop, or how was it that it came?
I don't think really either one of us had said, please stop. We both just stopped. Part of our conversations with each other were about her religious views and my religious views, and I didn't want her to regret her trip, there. I didn't want that to happen, so, at some point we stopped, but it wasn't necessarily her stopping me or me stopping her. I didn't want to go any further for her to regret the trip.
During this interlude that you are having, what was her demeanor? Was she upset? Was she happy? What was her demeanor?
I mean, it just seemed like the person I'd be talking on the phone, just meeting her in person. There was never a moment where it felt awkward or anything like that.
At any time while this is going on, did you grab your hands and say, don't put it here, don't put it there, anything like that? Is that a no?
No.
And so later on, what did the two of you do?
Later on, we had, I don't know if anything else happened before this, but we had to get to the business briefing.
And where was the business briefing?
Sandy again, same location as the training the night before.
And what time was the business briefing?
The business briefing.
So you get back probably around 1, so it's 1 to 7 that you and she are together, correct? Mm-hmm. Is that yes?
So 1 to 7 we're together, yeah.
And did you finish watching the movie that you guys
I don't know. I don't know if we did.
So what happens with regard to the business briefing? Do you go by yourself or do you go with her?
No, we go together. I think she drove with me. I think I was just going to take her back to her car. She might have followed me there. I don't remember that. But we showed up definitely together at the same time. And she, obviously people were surprised to see her there. A few people knew who she was, and obviously knew she was from California and asked her, said hi and what she's doing in town.
With regard to her hair color, when you met her, what was her hair color?
Blonde.
When she came over to West Jordan, what was her hair color?
Dark brunette.
And during the time that you and she are alone in the afternoon, did you notice her hands?
Yeah.
And did you notice whether or not she had any injuries or cuts to one of her hands?
She had 2 small bandages, it seems like, on one of her fingers, or a couple of her fingers.
Did you and she talk about that?
Yeah, either then or, yeah, we did at some point, yes.
And what did she tell you about those cuts?
She worked at Margaritaville, and I guess she broke a glass and she cut her finger.
Well, I'm not asking you to guess, I'm asking you to tell me what she said.
Okay.
We know that you weren't there and you don't know, I'm just telling you what
She told me she worked at Margaritaville and she'd cut her finger.
And how did she cut her finger at Margaritaville?
I think she told me she broke a glass and cut her finger.
So you go to this training, and how long does this training last?
About an hour.
And then what happens after that?
We get a whole bunch of buddies again, and we go out to Chili's, and that's we went over there and talked for probably 2.5 hours, something like that.
At any time during this evening, what was her demeanor like? Was she crying at any time? Was she upset at any time? What was her demeanor like?
The only time, she was fine. She was laughing about simple little things, just like any other person. I never once felt there was anything wrong about the day. I felt like socially, the first time I ever saw her in a crowd, I thought she was much more comfortable one-on-one. That was the first time I noticed she was a little awkward in social areas, and it seemed like she didn't talk very much to some other people. And some other people would talk about that a little bit, but it just wasn't the Jodi I knew, because one-on-one she was very talkative and insightful and very different.
So it seemed like in social situations she was a bit more inhibited and shy.
Yeah, a little shyer, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And with you, that's not how she was when you were alone with her, right?
Not at all.
Did she leave then to go back, or did you guys make it back to your place?
We made it back to my place.
About what time was that?
Later, 11, maybe.
And when you got back, what did the two of you do?
I think we turned on a movie again. Maybe it was the same one we were watching, maybe it was a different one, but we were tired, we fell. She had to get back to Margaritaville. That was why she couldn't come forwarding with us the next day. She almost was going to stay with us, and everybody was, telling her to. But she seemed to think about it, but it got to a point where she felt like, no, she couldn't, she's got to get back to work. And so we left, but sometime as we left, she said she don't have to leave right now. And so I said, well, we can go back to my place again if you don't want to leave right away. And so we went back to my place, and we took a nap.
All right. And when you awoke, describe for me what happened.
I don't know how long we were sleeping. The second we woke up, we were kissing.
And what else happened?
She got on top of me pretty aggressively, and we were kissing.
When she got on top of you pretty aggressively, where was her genital area compared to yours?
I mean, she was right on top of me.
And you guys were kissing, correct? Is that yes?
Yes,
And how long did this encounter take?
maybe a few minutes.
And during that time, was there a decision to go forward or a decision to stop?
We just stopped.
And you partly made that decision, correct? Is that yes?
Yes.
At any time, did she say, stop, don't go forward, don't do anything else, anything like that?
Neither one of us did. It was kind of the same feeling I had. We just stopped.
Anything about her demeanor that indicated to you that she was upset about anything at that point?
Not at all.
In terms of, you were around her for that day, did you form an opinion based on your contact with her and being around her as to her strength and how fit she was?
She's very fit.
She caused speculation.
You said what?
She's very fit. She was in good shape.
And in terms of her strength, did you form an opinion based on that night?
We were instant messaging back and forth. At some point, I complimented her on being very feisty, and I was kind of referring to she's a lot stronger than she looks.
During this encounter, after you wake up, did she ever, and the phrase may have been adjust you in any way while this encounter is going on?
Well, that's what I mean. When we woke up, we were kissing, and then she eventually kind of grabbed me and adjusted me a little bit, and that's when she got on top of me and we were kissing.
And were you able to feel her strength at that point?
Yeah.
And did you form an opinion, again, throughout the day and as part of that, as to her strength?
Yeah, she's strong.
At any point, did you ever kiss her stomach?
Yes.
And were you able to see her stomach in terms of whether or not she was in shape?
Yeah, close to a six-pack, yeah.
You said it was close to a six-pack?
That's what she was even talking about in our MSN, or our instant messaging through Google. Yeah.
And after you stopped, what happened? Did she stay or did she go, or what happened?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I kept on reminding her she had to get to work. That's what she was telling people at the dinner, and that was kind of the whole reason she had to go. And she said she wanted to stay just a little while longer, and we stayed maybe a few more minutes is all. And then just kind of walked her out to her car and said goodbye.
What time was that? Any idea?
1 a.m. possibly. It was later. Could even be later than that. I don't remember.
One of the things that you indicated to me was that there was this sort of instant messaging part or component of your relationship.
Yeah, we would talk, and every once in a while, if I noticed she was online, or if she noticed I was online, we both had a Google account, I believe, and so you can kind of tell when they're on, and so you could just kind of write a little message, and a few of our conversations were through that.
Describe for me how that's different, if you know, from emailing, in other words.
I mean, it pops right up on the screen if you've got your Gmail open, and so if somebody says, hi, it pops right up, and you can reply, and then you can almost carry on a conversation while you're doing other things. But I mean, it's kind of like a text message back and forth. It's immediate, and you're both responding right away. And sometimes you're even responding to things that are 2 or 3 questions away, so it can kind of be kind of confusing.
Let me show you exhibit number 284. Go ahead and take a look at it. Are you familiar to who that is sent?
Yeah, this is from Jodi Arias on May 30th.
And who's it sent to?
Me.
And it has, without reading it, it has something on there, right? Something written.
Yeah, what she wrote me. Uh-huh.
If I could have that back. Move for the admission of exhibit 284.
No objection.
Action. 284 is admitted.
Let's take a look at 284. before, and if you look at your computer there, I think it'll pop up for you.
Yes, I see it.
And this is from her to you, and what does she say in this message dated May 30th of 2008 at midnight, 12:21 a.m.?
It says, "Hey there, handsome. This is a test."
The fact that it says this is a test, do you know whether or not this is the first contact that you had via this messaging system?
Yeah, it could have been. I don't remember being too familiar with using it too much before this. Yeah.
And you didn't send this though, right?
No.
Take a look at exhibit. Well, let me show you another exhibit. 287, take a look at it.
Yeah.
Is it the same sort of message and it's between you and her?
Yeah. It's just this one's on 6/23.
All right. I move for the admission of exhibit 287.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. When we approach,
You may.
It indicates it's from you to Jodi Arias, right?
Yes.
In reading this, it appears that it says at the top, but it's always great to hear from you when that says me, and then directly underneath it, it says Ryan's PPL. Are you me or Ryan's PPL?
I'm Ryan's PPL.
And in terms of reading it, it does say that it's always great to hear from you. You do the same, referring to something, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the conversation looks like it starts at the bottom, like it
So-
goes the other way.
So it
That's
would
the
be,
last thing that was said.
so it would actually read, if we're going to read this conversation, her saying to you, "Hey, hottie biscotti, what's new?" Right?
Yeah, that probably would have been the first.
Is hottie biscotti a pet name she gave you, or is that just something that's in this text message or message?
She might have said it a few times. I don't remember her calling me that on a regular basis.
And then it says Ryan's PPL. It says, "Hey, you, what's?"
Probably what's up. I just didn't type it. You're not really spell checking yourself as you're going through this.
And then me, which would be her, says, "Actually, I'm just running off to work." And you responded with what?
Okay, have a great day.
And then what did she respond?
She said, "You do the same, but it's always great to hear from you."
There were other such conversations between the two of you, right?
Yeah.
Was there a conversation that took place in which she discussed the breakup with Travis Alexander?
Not too often, but we talked so much that, yeah, I mean, a few times we talked about it.
And take a look at Exhibit 286 and see if you recognize it and whether or not that's a conversation where she talks about the breakup.
Yeah, this is a few days after we were together in West Jordan, and we did talk about, we did talk about the breakup here, a little bit about some of the things that happened, and yeah.
Okay. I move for the admission of Exhibit 286.
Judge, I'm going to object again. Same objection.
Please approach. Exhibit 286 is admitted.
Sir, let's go ahead and take a look at parts of Exhibit 286. This is page 2 of 9. We see the me is who?
That's Jodi.
And the Ryan's PPL is who?
It's me.
Me does indicate something there. Why don't you read to us what that sentence or that whole section says?
You want me to read it or just say what I
No,
remember?
it's just whatever it says, starting with anyway.
Anyway, back to Travis real quick. And this is Jodi. Anyways, back to Travis real quick. He's a great person, and I wouldn't want to edify him as anything else. We all have our character flaws. We've seen each other at our absolute worst and our best. We are just fundamentally different.
This is page 4 of 9. If you start reading with me from the bottom and read up for me.
From where you're pointing?
Me is Jodi Arias, correct?
What, you want me to start on well?
No, where it says yes. Uh-huh.
Well, there is a little more.
What is
Laugh out loud, LOL. Laugh out loud. The whole time we were seeing each other after we broke up, he had another girlfriend. I had no idea. He didn't tell me about her here, but her probably until after they broke up.
Let me see if I can get this to focus in a little bit.
There you go. That's better.
Okay.
But I felt so bad this time I was the other girl. I wanted to tell her, but that would have caused a lot of unnecessary drama and pain. Anyway, since she asked what time it was, I decided to text her back, quote, "Time to cuddle with Jodi, good night." Then I deleted the message, went to sleep, and never mentioned it to him.
Let's continue on. What did you say?
I said, "Oh man, that is intense."
And she responded,
But it got to the point where I couldn't keep it in anymore. I confronted him. We broke up, and I kind of wish that was the end of the story. But he is very persuasive, and we continue to see each other, even though we were no longer boyfriend girlfriend.
so she talks about this text message and what she did with it, right?
Yeah.
As part of her coming out there, did you and she continue on talking about what it was that you might do when she came out there to see you?
Before she came the first time?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked about maybe watching a movie, going on a hike. We just mentioned some things that she can do while she was out here in Salt Lake.
Take a look at 285. Does this sort of summarize your conversations regarding what the two of you might do?
Yes. This is, before she came.
I move for the admission of Exhibit 285. While they're marking that, let's take a look at a couple more lines from Exhibit number 286. And this is page 3 of 9. Read the part that says, me.
Then while we were in Huntington Beach, he fell asleep and a text message came through from a girl that said, "Sorry, I didn't get back to your last text. What time is it there?" I tried, and then up. So of course, I read the last text he sent her, and it said, "I really miss you. Gosh, I'm making myself look so bad." This is still her. "I had a really strong gut feeling. I'm not saying I'm psychic, but I've been cheated on twice before, and it's a very distinct feeling, one that I cannot ignore." So I asked him gently about it, and he got really angry, and it led to an argument. He said I was crazy to think that, so I left it alone. But the feeling persisted, and one day while he was taking a nap, I took his phone and read his text messages. Bad, I know.
And exhibit number 285, for example, you talk at the bottom about getting sushi and that sort of thing, but basically it just talks about what your plans are when she comes out, correct?
Yeah, she had said that about getting sushi or something.
Did you and she also text message each other back and forth?
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions, thank you.
Morning, Mr. Burns.
How you doing?
Let me start out today. I want to talk to you a little bit. I think what you told us was that you met Miss Arias in Oklahoma City.
That's right.
Okay. And that was at I think you call them convention for people that go, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned having a conversation with her after a meeting or a ceremony, if I understood you correctly.
Yeah, it was like a specific team breakout session. So it's a little bit smaller than the entire convention. It's just a closer knit team.
Okay. And you began to talk to her after that. Do you remember how long that conversation was?
It couldn't have been more than a few minutes. It was quick. Didn't spend a whole lot of time. We were going to and from.
And what were your initial impressions of Jodi at that time?
She was nice, beautiful. That's what I remembered about her.
Okay. At this point in time at this convention in Oklahoma City, and it was April 2008, that was your recollection or thereabouts?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know a man by the name of Travis Alexander?
Yes. I knew who he was. I didn't know him personally.
Okay, so could you kind of describe that for us, what you mean by that?
Yeah, I maybe 3 months in the business, I was struggling, not doing so well. I was even thinking about quitting. And then at some point, Travis Alexander was flown into town as a guest speaker for Salt Lake City Market. And I attended that training, and I was inspired by him. It kind of changed my business around, and that was my only encounter with him personally.
Okay.
And so I just, I kept going and did much better after that.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned that sometime subsequent to this initial meeting with Ms. Arias. By the way, was Mr. Alexander there when the two of you were speaking during that initial session?
I don't know. I don't remember him, so probably not.
Okay.
Being there.
All right. And as someone who was important to you, you probably would have remembered that.
I probably would have recognized him. Yeah, probably. I mean, I know he was at the event, but not that specific event when me and her were talking and exchanged numbers.
Okay, gotcha. And you mentioned something, I believe it was a smaller team get-together where a gentleman by the name of Zion Lovinger, did I get that correct, was there?
Excuse me. Yeah, that was probably about a month after convention. We were playing pool downstairs.
Okay. So this was after the convention was over, it was just the two of you then, is that?
There was a bunch of people, and I can't remember whose house we were at, maybe Dave Hall's mom's house or something like that.
Okay.
But it was kind of a dinner get-together with just the business people in Salt Lake and the Utah area.
Okay.
And, eventually Jodi's name came up, and...
Do you remember the context of her name coming up at this meeting? It sounds kind of out of place.
It's been so long. I don't really remember if I brought it up or if he did. I'm not sure.
Okay. In between this initial meeting and the time her name was brought up in this meeting, the pool or what have you, did you have conversations with Ms. Arias?
I don't think so. I think it was about a 3 or 4 week break before we really started talking after that convention.
Okay. Tell me what you can recall about that conversation with Zion about Jodi.
She's cool. You should give her a call, something like that.
Okay. You mentioned that he was trying to play matchmaker between the two of you, I think was your words, right?
Yeah, it could be an assumption, but yeah.
Okay. Well, what did you mean by that?
He mentioned that I should call her, and I told her that I originally had her number, and I think I even asked him for it because I didn't have it anymore.
Okay. And did he express the reasons why you should call her?
Objection, hearsay.
Not really.
Overruled, you may answer yes or no.
No.
Okay, but something he said must have motivated you to call her, is that accurate? Okay. And just so we're clear, you were single at this time back in April 2008, or maybe May when you had this conversation with Zion?
Yeah,
okay.
At that point, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Yes.
Okay. And so, did you take Zion up on his offer, and did you call Miss Arias?
I think if I remember right, I actually called her right there at that event.
Okay.
Because I believe the first time I talked to Jodi, I was at somebody else's house. It seems like I even found it. Yeah, there was a room that had a sitting room, and I think everybody was kind of off this way, and I started talking to her, and I actually went and sat in that room where there was nobody at, and we started talking, and we talked for quite a while.
Okay.
Seemed to hit it off pretty quick.
Okay. Do you remember how long quite a while was?
Could be 30 minutes. You could tell me it was 3 hours. I wouldn't remember at this
All right.
point.
Fair enough. But you remember it being a pleasant conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Was your, thinking of how to put this, was your interest romantic, if you will?
I mean, sure, I was interested in getting to know her better and possibly dating her, yeah.
Okay. So what do you remember about that conversation? I mean, just other than it was pleasant.
We talked about the same kind of books that we'd like to read. I mean, Atlas Shrugged, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And she kind of just had a lot of the same interests. She was a very good conversationalist on the phone. We just had a lot in common. When I initially met her, I mean, she's a businesswoman at a national convention entrepreneur, so I thought that was an attractive trait.
Okay.
Just all those kinds of things that sounded like somebody I wanted to get to know.
Okay. And everything in that phone conversation, nothing dissuaded you from your initial feelings, right?
No.
Okay. You also mentioned, and I think this might be a good point to talk about, you mentioned the fact that in crowds she was a bit of a shy girl, but in private it was different.
Very different.
Okay. And I just wanted to, because it sounds like after the convention, when you first met her, you didn't see her in person again until June of 2008. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, that's the first time we ever met, was when she came on that road. Uh-huh.
So
Outside of that, yeah.
what I was curious about, what I was asking about, and if you could explain it for us, is how did you draw that comparison? How did you make the comparison that she's a little bit different, engaging in conversation and shy in groups? Could you kind of
Sure.
explain that to us?
I mean, just when I talked to her, it was such a brief moment there in Oklahoma when I got her number. And then when we talked on the phone, it was just one-on-one, me and her, and she was very easy to talk to. There wasn't ever any awkwardness there, and I felt like I got to know her pretty well. She was funny. She just had a lot to say and a lot of insight on things. She asked a lot of questions, and it just never seemed like there was ever a moment of awkwardness. Now, when we got together at the briefing, I started noticing, that she was a little shyer, when she was in a crowd, and that's just something I noticed. I just noticed she didn't. She just was a little shyer when she was in front of people.
Okay. And this briefing that you just mentioned, that was in June of 2008. That's when she came to Utah, right?
Right.
Okay.
That was a Thursday. Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you made contact with her in the I guess
May,
it would have been,
probably.
I'm losing track of my months, April or
Probably
so.
May or end of April could have been.
Okay. When you had that contact, did you have any awareness of her dating Mr. Alexander, having a relationship?
No, in fact, at some point we had a conversation where she told me that they talked a couple times a week, and that actually shocked me because I'd talked to her for quite a bit of time, and I thought that relationship was long in the past. So when she mentioned that to me, I was kind of surprised that they were in, but then it made more sense as she explained that was her executive director. That was the one that kind of, and she also explained that at times she would help him put in applications and stuff with the company, and she was working with him as him being her mentor in the business as well.
Okay. So you said she had advised you that she helped him put in membership applications.
Yeah, I mean, she said a couple times a week they would talk business matters, but the relationship seemed to be far behind them.
Okay. Did she ever mention that she gave Mr. Alexander memberships so he could keep his numbers high?
Yeah, I think she did help him qualify for executive director if he was close. I don't know if she just mentioned she helped him in what way, but maybe, yeah. Okay.
And you mentioned, I think it might be a good time to kind of describe, you said to help him maintain executive director, right? I think that's the word you used, right? What is that? What does that mean? Could you just
It's a bonus level in our company. and you get paid a lot more if you qualify for it. And so it requires a certain number of applications that your team would process. At that time, I believe it was 75 memberships. And so if you only had 73 by the end of the month, you would still get paid director commissions, but not the executive director bonus. And so it's not a position you'd want to miss if you're close.
Okay. So it is there's financial reward for being a quote-unquote executive director,
It is a
correct?
big pay jump.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say big pay jump. Is there any way you can, I understand it's a commission-based business, from what I understand anyway, I should say. Is that correct?
I mean, for example, my first month as a director, I made $6,000. My first month as an executive director, I had my first $10,000 month.
Okay.
So it was a $4,000 increase for me.
Okay. And would that also, apart from the financial rewards, which obviously you just described are significant, are there, for example, status? Does this status allow you into certain places or certain meetings, or could you kind of define that for us?
Yeah, like an executive director banquet, for example, might be the only thing I could think you're referring to, or that you would get. Basically, you just got paid more, but there would be certain incentives the company would put out that would be just for the executives, and so we'd have 1,000 or a couple thousand of us with us in our state or whatever that would go to an executive director banquet.
Okay.
So, I mean, there is incentives in that way, yeah.
Okay.
And easier to get on the...
The state showed you some of the instant message conversations you had with Ms. Arias between, well, not all of them, but some of which were between April, May of 2008 and June of 2008. Mm-hmm. And well, that was one medium you used to communicate, right?
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you said you made phone calls as well.
Yeah, usually at night.
Phone calls.
My business was really picking up at the time, so I think she was busy during the day, and she knew I was busy during the day. So if I called her, she called me, is usually around 11 p.m. at night when we were both kind of settling down.
Okay. Between this initial call you made at Zion's prompting and your meeting on June 4th or 5th of 2008, did you talk on a daily basis, a near daily basis? I'm sorry, I think I talked
4 or 5 times a week. Could be more even. Text messages throughout the day sometimes.
4 or 5 times a week, and you text message during the day?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. And these instant message conversations that we just saw a few moments ago, when did those typically take place, and how often?
I don't think too often, because you usually would just call each other, we'd be texting. If we were both by a computer, when you're on Gmail, you can kind of see your contacts and who's actually online.
Okay.
And I think at one point she wrote, "Hi, this is a test," and then I was online and I responded back to her, and that's when we started kind of just talking that way.
All right. Tell us about these conversations and what were the subjects. You talked every day. What kind of things did you guys
getting
talk
to
about?
know each other, her likes and dislikes. She'd ask me that. She'd ask me a lot of questions like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What do you not like to do? What books have you read? She'd ask me questions about, not too often, but a few times we talked about my dating history, what that was like, how that happened. Do I have trust issues? Does she have trust issues? We would talk about just whatever would come up.
Okay. You didn't have any conversations that could be characterized as phone sex?
Yeah, we probably did.
Okay. And when did those take place?
Sometime after she was there, after that.
Okay. But no, what I was specifically saying is between the time you met and the time you met in April and the time you met in June, there was none of that. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. And let me ask you, just so we're clear, because some of it came up, in April 2008, and June of 2008, between that period of time, did you have any moral or religious qualms against premarital sex?
Ironically, it was kind of, I hadn't actually attended an LDS church for probably over a year at that time. And she would often tell me how she felt about, her religious beliefs, the Book of Mormon, how she felt. And I think that was kind of one of the big reasons why I didn't want her to regret her trip when she came, is because I certainly didn't want her going home feeling like she regretted her trip, or she made a huge mistake, or that she let temptation take over. And so, that was one of the things that kind of made me stop, when things were kind of getting a little heated between us. And so, it was more her expressing her religious beliefs and almost trying to bring me closer to God.
Okay, and you made that comment, I think, to, I know you spoke to Detective Flores on the phone.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And we spoke a year or so back.
You came out to Salt Lake,
yeah. And that's, you said that very thing during one of those conversations, that she was trying to bring you closer to God. Mm-hmm. Right? And that was during those phone conversations. And to your understanding, was she a member of your, I guess, former church at that time?
Yeah, she was. She was what they would call a convert. She was baptized later on. She wasn't grown. I don't think she wasn't raised in the church. But somebody introduced her to it.
Okay. Do you know who that someone was?
I've been told it was Travis.
Okay, but she did by her, or did for someone else, or just gossip?
No, I think she told. Yeah, okay. She told me. She told me in one of our conversations.
Okay. And did she seek to get you reinvested in the church? Is that a
little bit? I mean, yeah, she'd mentioned reading my scriptures, and yeah.
Okay. And do you believe she was any reason to doubt her sincerity in that effort?
No.
Okay. During these conversations that you had, where you're talking about the scripture and your relationship with God, did she ever talk to you about, or confide in you, I should say, that she had a sexual relationship with Mr. Alexander?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about that.
She told me that she never wanted me to say anything to anybody because she didn't want to de-edify him in front of people that knew him, but that they did go a lot further than they should have. I don't know if I ever heard her say they had sex, but it seemed like that's what she was saying. I didn't want to ask the specific question because I didn't feel like it was my business. But yes, at one point, maybe I did ask her, and yeah, I found out that they had sex together. Yeah. Okay.
And you used the word edify, and that came up in the text, or excuse me, the instant messages you read a moment ago. That leads me to ask the question: during these conversations, text messages, emails, whatever mode you use to communicate, did she ever badmouth Travis? Did she ever edify him?
Besides the conversation about him cheating on her and him being unfaithful, and she felt just not being honest with her. No, in fact, I always found it quite surprising that some of the people who, even after we found out, which I believe was 4 or 5 days after Travis was killed, we didn't know that for weeks.
Mr. Burns, if I could, let's just focus on
sorry.
that period of time, okay?
Yeah.
She never edified him before June 4th?
She never said bad things about him, really.
Okay.
I mean, besides that, when she said the trust issue. Besides that, everything was, he was a great guy, he inspired her, he was great, everything.
Okay. Mm-hmm. This trust issue and this cell phone and this response to a text message from another girl, you recall talking to that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Okay. Do you know which girl she was referring to?
No idea.
Okay. Do you know the period of time that we're talking about when she found this out?
I was under the assumption it was a long time ago. I didn't know if it was 6 months ago or 2 years ago. I really didn't know. And again, I didn't try to pry too much in that relationship. I didn't feel like that was, it just didn't, I didn't know how long ago it was.
Okay, fair enough. Do you recall when they broke up? Or did she ever advise you of that? When she became
It seemed
single?
like a year ago. I was under the impression, I thought, but it could have been 2 years prior. I don't remember having that conversation about when timeline.
Okay. Do you know if it was the infidelity that motivated this breakup? 'Cause I kinda got that impression.
From everything,
Judge respects not an evidence that Mr. cut off was being unfaithful.
sorry. Okay.
Mr. Martinez, did you have an objection?
Objection assumes facts not in evidence, i.e. that Mr. Alexander was being unfaithful.
Since there were so many people talking at once, why don't you ask the question again? Please wait.
Sure.
In the event there is an objection, I need to respond.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Burns, there was some infidelity referenced in the instant message conversations we just saw. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it seemed like she didn't trust him. I don't know if he was doing stuff with other girls besides flirting and talking to other people.
Do you remember in your conversations with her, do you know if that was the reason that motivated them to break up?
It seemed like, yeah, that was what, I think at one point I even complimented her, and I felt like she was, full disclosure, I felt like she was telling me a lot more than she needed to, and I didn't ask her to. And yeah, it seemed like the reason they broke up was because they didn't trust each other.
Okay. During one of the conversations you had, you made a comment that something to the effect that Travis didn't want the relationship he had, and I think you referenced it a little bit earlier today. Travis didn't want their relationship to be public. Do you recall saying that, or?
Yeah, I think that was, that seemed like that was some of her frustration, that it didn't seem like the relationship was going anywhere. And I think and that's why she told me she moved away, because it just was, she explained it was hard to stop seeing each other when they were so close.
Okay.
So she moved away.
And when you say moved away, did she reference where she was moving to?
From Arizona to California. She moved away for that.
Okay. And I don't think you mentioned a specific city, but you mentioned when she returned to Northern California, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this would have been when, do you recall?
When she moved away from him?
Yes.
I wouldn't know.
Okay. Do you remember when she told you about that?
Just that was the end of it.
Okay. But you don't
Or that
remember,
she wished that was the end of it.
okay, but you don't remember when she moved. You don't just saying, hey, I'm moving, or anything like that. You don't remember
No, I
that?
don't remember
Okay.
her saying that to me.
But I still want to get back to my question about how Mr. Alexander didn't want their relationship to be public, which is something you've said in prior interviews. What did you mean by that? How did you get that impression?
It just seemed like they were just on the way to breaking up, and they kind of hooked up a few times after they had broken up. I think he, from the sounds of it, sounded like she wanted to move on, and it sounded like he wanted to move on.
Okay, so let me ask this a different way then. Did you ever see, and how long was this convention in Oklahoma City?
2 days.
2 days, okay.
Sometimes 3 if you'd fly in the day before.
And I'm guessing the logistics of it was it's located at a certain hotel and everybody's...
It's the Cox Convention Center in Oklahoma.
Okay. And I certainly don't expect you to have an attendance total with me, but are we talking hundreds of people, thousands of people?
Well over 10,000.
Okay. And were there a social event? I mean, you talked about meetings or social events, that sort of thing, correct?
Yeah, social events, parties. They do training throughout the day for about 8 hours, so you got 2 4-hour sessions then. And then usually after they would have, dance parties, hanging out, all kinds of stuff going on.
Okay. And it sounds to me, from what you've told us in the past, is that you and Jodi had a fair amount of mutual friends. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there any interaction with yourself and those mutual friends at the convention with Jodi there?
No.
Okay.
Just me and Jodi. I mean, I talk to those friends all the time there, but not with interaction with Jodi.
Okay. Did you ever see at this convention Travis and Jodi together as a couple?
No. No.
Okay. Did you ever see or hear of them together as a couple in any other forum?
No, that's why when we had a conversation that they had been talking twice a week, I was shocked because I thought they weren't talking to each other at all. I didn't know that.
Well, talking to each other could mean a lot of different things.
Sure.
Does that mean dating, or did you
Yeah.
have any sense of?
Just speculation.
I don't know.
As to what he thinks it means.
Rephrase your question.
Did you have any knowledge of Mr. Alexander and Miss Arias spending time together back in 2008?
Objection, foundation.
You may answer, overruled, you may answer yes or no.
No.
Okay. The conversing that you referenced a moment ago, you learned that knowledge through Jodi, is that correct?
Yeah.